You're up.
Hello, Perfect Strangers. Welcome to a new week. The old Perfect Strangers theme song starting us off, putting me in a good mood for sure. Hope you guys are in a good mood. DC and Sunny already up on the live stream with us, as is the Captain Carey Rich, helping to fill in for Bill Gunter this morning. Bill will be filling in doing Heath's show from 4 to 7 one last time. Carey, I'm guessing you didn't watch a lot of TGIF back in the day with Perfect Strangers, huh?
I did not.
I hope you didn't watch a lot of that back in the day with Perfect Strangers.
I did
Nothing
not.
can stop us, no matter whether I can hear you or not on the show. Gamecock baseball, big weekend,
No idea.
big comeback. A big win yesterday, avoiding a sweep to Mississippi State. And it was dramatic and important in multiple ways. Uncompetitive early on in game one, 9-0. It was 9-1 in game two on Saturday. And then Andrew Weister hits a couple of home runs, and Carolina at least makes it respectable, 9-6, that final score. And then yesterday, up 2-0 early on with David Mendham home run, who had sat out on Saturday, didn't pout, came back and contributed multiple ways, but Carolina's still down 3-2 going into the ninth inning. They battle back, get a run from another guy who's been in and out of the lineup, Jeff Heinrich, with the big hit. And then in the 11th, Carolina gets the 4-3 walk-off win. Mendham the hit, Heinrich scores from first. And now Clemson up on Tuesday at Kentucky this weekend before the final SEC series of the season with Tennessee at home to finish. So notable in multiple ways. I'm guessing you can come away with it with a lot of different feelings. It might actually show us more about you and your outlook than it does about what happened on the field. The way that I see it, the Gamecocks avoided disaster by winning that last game. Still in the conversation to host a regional, but still need to win more games with 6 left in SEC play. 12-12 is the record now after a 10-5 start. Carey Rich, what's your big takeaway from Gamecock baseball over the weekend?
Well, I guess the good sign is that they were able to finish the series on a good note, on a winning note, after going down their first two. But I think after just watching the series this weekend, as we all watched and witnessed, hitting has been somewhat of an issue. I think that was again exposed this weekend. But also, when you think about, I don't think there's any doubt that this is a good baseball team, but they've just had a bad luck of the draw here the last 3 weeks or so. Think about who they've gone up against. They've gone up against Arkansas, Ole Miss, and Mississippi State. You're not talking only about 3 of the best teams in the SEC. You're talking about 3 of the best teams in all of college baseball. And even though you feel like you're a pretty good team when you're going up against that elite group of teams, obviously it gives you some indication of where you are as a baseball team, but ultimately it is also a reminder that you're not quite at that level yet when you think about the last 3 opponents. You're talking about 3 opponents that they've gone 2-7 against, but again, not just 3 of the best teams in the SEC, 3 of the best teams in all of college baseball. And I think we all saw that the past 3 weeks.
No doubt about it. That is what SEC baseball is, especially this year, but seemingly every single year in a lot of ways. And this year, I think we may have seen it even more so than typical. And you're going to see it again with Tennessee to end the season. Other headlines of the weekend: Rory McIlroy, a winner up in Charlotte on the PGA Tour, breaking an 18-month drought there and getting a win. And the Atlanta Braves, winners of 5 of their last 6 last night, and doing it in notable ways on ESPN last night at the Sunday night game of the week. It was Tyler Matzik with a ridiculous play. If you haven't seen him, it's left-handed pitcher, throws the ball, it's a comebacker, and he reaches back over his head, right-handed, can't even see the ball, snags it, double play there. As they're playing, ESPN is playing a comment from Freddie Freeman about how important Mother's Day is and how he told his wife he'd hit a home run for her or tried to hit a home run for her. He hits a home run yesterday, his 9th of the season. So those are some of the things that stuck out to me for sure about the weekend at large. And we'll continue to get into more and more details as we roll on this morning. Love to hear from you at 803-404-6100. Carey, want to get back into Gamecock baseball because it's not just playing against a good team and struggling to stack wins together. What we see from Gamecock baseball, what we saw Friday night was something more significant. When you lose 9-0, Mark Kingston had already tweaked his pitching rotation. Obviously didn't work out, not the result that he wanted. But losing is one thing, and you know this. But being uncompetitive and losing against really good teams is another thing. But being uncompetitive, losing 9-0 at home in a series opener where Carolina still has only won one of those this season, that led Mark Kingston to forego the usual on-the-field meeting after the ball game, and he said, all right, boys, let's head to the locker room. Mm-hmm. It was time for him to express his feelings and thoughts a little differently. And then it was a bit of a players-only gathering after that, and there are teams at all levels that have these moments relatively consistently, and then a story kind of gets told in a certain way afterwards. What are your thoughts and experiences with players only meetings and those type of coaches expressions and discussions, let's say conversations with their teams at certain moments? And then what did you think of how Gamecock baseball responded after losing 9-0 in that first game? Came back and didn't win on Saturday, down 9-1, but at least made it competitive and got the Mississippi State closer in the game, which did, I think, have an effect on the walk-off win in 11 innings yesterday that the Gamecocks kind of avoided a disaster in a second straight sweep.
Yeah, what we saw after the shutout with Mark Kingston and the team, in sports we call those accountability sessions. And even players that have played who are beyond their playing days, who are beyond their respective careers, regardless of the sport, when we all come back together and we're reminiscing, we're thinking back to our playing days, we always talk about certain games, certain moments within the games, bus rides, plane rides, dorm moments. But the other thing that we talk about, because it's no fun, every athlete that I know just absolutely hated film sessions, because in the film session, players know when you messed up. Players know when they've blown it. So you're looking at film, and that coach also know that you blew it. So he's rewinding that same play over and over and over again. And you as a player, you're just hoping in your mind that something changes about that play, but it never changes. But what we saw after the game was what you call an accountability session. And I can tell you that it's no fun at all. There's no diplomacy. There's no political correctness. There's nothing on the surface. It's real, raw conversation. And you're challenged as a player. You're challenged as a person. And it is no time for the weak. And those that are serious about where you are, those that are serious about what you're doing as a player, this is an opportunity for you to reflect and have and take self-inventory. And every fabric of your competitive bone is challenged. And it's not a comfortable conversation. And after that meeting, one or two things: you're going to give in, or you're going to come back and try to fight and show that you're not some of those things that were just discussed. Because again, the conversations aren't fun at all. They're the worst conversations you want to have. Again, that's why you call them accountability sessions, because not only are we pointing out certain individuals, and you hate to really get to that point as a coach, but sometimes you feel like you have to get to that point. You have to remind players of not only what they've appeared to have done the last few games or so, but there's going to be supportive data to back that up. And again, it's not fun. No player wants to be a part of it. Accountability session is one of the most difficult conversations, one of the most difficult meetings you ever want to be in. And it looked like it worked to a certain extent, didn't necessarily result in a win in the subsequent game. But I think we did see some more competitive fight, some more competitive spirit. And, even as coaches, we talked about it just the other day, just this past Friday, when, even when you're going up against a better team, even when you're going up against a coach that's revered in a certain way, uh, coaches know that, in order to be successful in that particular game, you're going to need some things to go your way. You're going to have to catch the opposing team on maybe they're not what is not considered their best day. You're going to need a few breaks to go in your favor. But the one thing that shouldn't be compromised, and the one thing coaches always expect, and that's just to be competitive, to leave everything out on the field, everything out on the court. And once that happens, then, we'll see what the end result is going to be. But we can't give ourselves a chance if we're not fighting, if we're not competing, if we're not doing the little things, we're not shooting ourselves in the foot. If we do those things, we give ourselves a chance against the really, really good teams. And that's what we've seen the last 3 weeks. Arkansas, Ole Miss, and Mississippi State, again, are not only three of the best teams in the SEC, which, as you alluded to, is SEC baseball, but is also baseball, some of the best baseball in all of college sports.
No doubt about it from that standpoint. From the numbers standpoint, now Carolina sits in 7th place in the SEC at 12-12 with 6 regular season games left, 3 at Kentucky this weekend, who is just 1 game behind Carolina in the standings, along with Georgia there in the East. Then 3 more against Tennessee, who is tied with Arkansas right now for number 1 overall in the SEC. Vanderbilt a half game behind those guys. Vandy is 16-7, having yesterday's series finale against Alabama canceled. Tennessee and Arkansas both 17-7. It's Mississippi State now a half game behind Vanderbilt in the standings, I guess. So sitting in 4th place at 16-8 overall. Ole Miss at 14-10, and Florida, the only other SEC school. So 6 SEC schools above 500 right now, and the Gamecocks sit right at 500 after 24 games, 6 games left on the schedule. It'll be an interesting finish for sure. Now, what we saw over the weekend, I think if Carolina had lost yesterday, I would tell you I wouldn't be shocked if you don't have the Gamecocks in the group of 20 teams. I believe the announcement is tomorrow from college baseball, from the NCAA this year. They're going to throw out 20 names as possibilities for 16 host sites. And they're doing it early this year because of COVID concerns and protocols, and it will be certainly more involved than other regional sites. And this is a different thing than they've ever done before. Typically, this is just after the regular season is done. But they're going to announce 20 names, and then once the field is set, they will finalize exactly where those 16 sites are. I expect Carolina with, and we'll let you hear some comments from Mark Kingston as we roll on this morning, but he mentioned it yesterday. He said didn't sugarcoat it with his team before the game. You want to host, you don't get swept at home. And the fact that Carolina was in critical danger of that happening, down 3-2 going into the 9th yesterday, they battled back, they find a way to win, was big. And Mark Kingston mentioning the team's 12 RPI. You got 20 sites out there. He expects the Gamecocks to be amongst the 20 names, Columbia, South Carolina, to be amongst the 20 sites in consideration for the NCAA tournament and hosting a regional. I expect the same thing. I think this is the kind of the reverse reputation that Gamecock basketball gets come NCAA tournament time, Carey, where there hasn't been sustained success through the years. We saw it specifically, I think, 2016, where Carolina was in position and they get a text from the NCAA tournament saying you're in, and then say, oh, sorry, guys, that was actually meant for the University of Southern California. You guys are not in. And, the lack of perennial postseason bids and the way that Carolina has been so sporadic through the years from the basketball court has always worked against them, I think, when it comes to getting the benefit of the doubt. But on the baseball field, I think it goes the other way with what the program has been through the years and decades, for sure. But we'll see soon enough when the NCAA comes out with its list of 20 regional sites this week. Also, this week is massively notable for Gamecock baseball with the finish of the Clemson series in a weird kind of way. Already having played 2 games, and the third game of the original 3-game series was postponed to later in the season, and it just happens to fall on Tuesday. So Carolina will have that game up at Doug Kingsmore Stadium tomorrow, and then at Kentucky this weekend. 4 tough road games for sure for the Gamecocks before finishing the regular season with one of the best teams in the country and Tennessee in Columbia. This, 1 week from this Thursday, I guess that series will start, a Thursday, Friday, Saturday series. We'll continue to break that down. Love to hear what you have to say. Good to see our favorite 86-year-old caller up early with us. We'll get to him on the Love Chevy phone lines, let you hear a lot of what Mark Kingston and the Gamecock baseball team had to say about their notable weekend in multiple ways, and let you hear what it sounded like when David Mendham got the walk-off hit for Carolina yesterday to help the Gamecocks win at 4-3 in 11 innings. The captain, Carey Rich, helping to fill in for Bill Gunter this morning. I think, Jen, maybe we should just start calling Monday morning shows. During football season, we call it Monday morning football therapy a lot of times. I think non-football season, Carey, if we can steal it from you, we're just going to call it Monday morning accountability sessions here on the early game.
Sounds good.
All right. Stolen. Consider it stolen, sir. You're listening to 107.5 The Game. You got me popping through your phone there?
Yes, sir. Good to go.
Nice. Thanks for waking up early on a Monday.
Hey, man, I told you I'm an early morning guy.
What'd you get into on the weekend?
It's rather quiet for me. My mother is a 3-time breast cancer survivor, so every Mother's Day becomes just a little bit more special. So I made sure to carve out some time, and man, I went over there and kicked my shoes off and just laid back on the couch and dozed off, went to sleep, got something to eat, and dozed back off and watched a little basketball game and reminisced about the good old days growing up in the projects, my friend. So that's about it. That's all I did. Took my son to the gym this weekend. Other than that, it was a rather quiet weekend for me, which is the way I like it.
I hear you.
And yourself? What did you get into?
Yeah, all family stuff. A day of kids' games on Saturday, and then yesterday was Mother's Day festivities. My mom was in town, and went out to eat with her, and the mother-in-law was also in town, the in-laws, and they live not too far away, and my sister's around the corner, so we had a group of 12.
One big family affair.
Yeah, it was mayhem, but pretty good. Nathan, Rafael Nadal? Are you kidding me? I don't know about Rafael Nadal. I gotta look that dude up. What's up with Nadal? You ever watch any tennis, Carey? I'm not a big tennis guy myself.
Nah, I believe it or not, I used to watch it when Yvonne Lendl and McEnroe,
Nice.
Jimmy Connors. I used to watch those guys, man. I think it was Connors McEnroe that was really, really passionate, right? He was an intense dude, wasn't he? Yeah.
Yep.
But I loved Yvonne Lendl.
Man, you could have given me 1,000 guesses. I never thought that sentence would be coming out of your mouth this morning. I love Yvonne Lendl.
Man, I'm pretty versatile when I want to be, my man. I used to be a lot more versatile before I just became so immersed into basketball.
Right. So I guess somebody asked Nadal about retirement Thursday, and he's about to turn 35. Man, he's won 20 Grand Slams. That's crazy. Man, that's nuts.
Yeah, I remember we had one of those sessions. Coach Fogler's second year here. It was Rick Barnes' first year at Clemson. Played him on a Friday night, and they blew us out. They ran us out of the gym. I knew the game was over the first 5 minutes of the game. And man, he ran us, and it was ugly. We weren't even supposed to have practice the following day. He changed it. We had practice at 8 o'clock the next morning on a Saturday morning. And we showed up. We watched film. It was very ugly, very challenging. Then after we watched film, he made us watch that ugly stuff. Then we went up on the court, and he instructed the managers to remove all of the balls. So we lined up along the baseline. He grabbed a chair. He sat at half court and had the managers to bring him a cup of coffee. And we ran for 2 hours. And I was so mad. And I couldn't do anything but just take it. Because as a senior, naturally in situations like that, you're going to get the brunt of that. And man, if there was a time I probably wanted to put my hands on Coach Fogler, that was the morning.
Had the managers bring him a cup of coffee?
And he sat at half court in a chair with his legs crossed. And he berated us. And he's the epitome of sarcastic, right? He was so sarcastic, and he needled us the entire 2 hours.
Wow. That's amazing.
Needless to say, that was my weekend. There was nothing I could do after that.
So who do you think is more sarcastic, Fogler or Frank Martin on the sideline?
Fogler. Well, Frank's sarcastic. Frank is sarcastic with the bonus of steroids. Because he gives you a little bit more.
Right.
As a matter of fact, he gives you a lot more compared to Fogler.
I mean, camera guy, I'd be right there on the baseline, and sometimes I would hear him, and I would get mad for the players. I'd just be like, man, seriously.
Didn't he remind you of yourself at times? With the sarcasm?
Not in those moments, man. I mean, you're right. It's another level.
That's another level because he's a very, very intelligent guy, man. And he's so sarcastic.
It's that sarcastic clap he would give dudes as they're going by.
Yeah.
Man.
Fogler would ask a question, and Carey, tell me what you were thinking on that last play, and I'll say what I was thinking. Carey, I love you and I respect you, but what horse you know what? What did you ask me then?
Surely you got to the point where you stopped answering.
Right, exactly.
Jen, can we do the play-by-play? I'll do a liner first. Thank you. Special edition of Grill Bill coming up. Actually, in a little bit more than 12 hours, 6:45 p.m. when we're going to have our normal Monday morning Grill Bill session because Bill Gunter helping to fill in for Heath Klein from 4 to 7 this afternoon. The captain, Carey Rich, just relayed an off-air story on the live video stream that's sponsored by Buford Lending, by the way, up and rolling on Facebook, YouTube Live, Twitter on the station handle as well about Eddie Fogler's one of his accountability sessions back in the day, and that was a gem. Maybe we'll get you to retell it here in a little bit. Classic accountability session as it pertains to South Carolina baseball. One more thing about Grill Bill. by the way. You just go to our website, 1075thegame.com. You sign up, put a couple of questions up there when you look at the contest tab, and you click on Grill Bill. That's your chance to make Bill Gunter a little uncomfortable. Ask him some interesting questions for sure. I think some interesting ones coming up a little later on the day. Again, 6:45 p.m. today's Grill Bill session. And Grill Bill sponsored by the South Carolina Pork Board, its member farmers, IGA Food Stores, and Camp Chef. The daily or the weekly winner, I guess I should say, the weekly qualifier gets a $50 IGA gift card and qualifies to win a Camp Chef pellet grill worth more than $1,000. Going to be giving that away pretty soon here. So go sign up for Grill Bill right now. And right now, also wanted to let you hear just how it sounded yesterday. And the capper for the weekend for Gamecock baseball, massively in need of a win.
An SEC losing streak of its last 5 games. It might have been even more than that. Let's see, they had lost 3 straight to Ole Miss, dropped 2 of 3 to Arkansas before then. So it was the last game they lost in that one. So it was up to 6 straight games before David Mendham came to the plate yesterday with a runner on first base and came through. Here's how it sounded with Derek Scott on the call for the Learfield IMG College broadcast.
0-1, hit well. In the air to left center field. A lot of carry. To the wall, off the wall. Rounding second and heading for third is Heinrich. They will send him home. Here's the throw from Forsythe. It is offline, and the Gamecocks win it. An RBI double from David Mendham in the 11th inning.
And Carolina needed it massively, and they got the win. Now, the numbers aren't great, especially what's been happening recently. When you're talking about breaking a losing streak, that's how it goes. But just pulling out the one win, important enough, I think, to keep Carolina in the conversation with 6 games left to stay at 500 in conference play at 12-12. And at Kentucky again, then Tennessee coming to town to end the regular season. We'll see how that ends up. On an RPI of 12, I think, is where Carolina sits this morning. And we'll let you hear more from Mark Kingston and company, which had an accountability session, is what Carey's calling it. When after Friday night, they get beat 9-0 in the series opener at Founders Park. Instead of meeting on the field like they normally would, they were asked/told to go to the locker room, where there was a discussion not a discussion, one-sided discussion, I'm guessing, from the coaching staff, and then a bit of a players-only meeting after that. And they didn't respond the next day. They were down 9-1, ended up making it 9-6. Mississippi State taking the series on the Saturday game, and then Carolina salvaging at least one game yesterday with that walk-off win from David Mendham. So interested in getting Gamecock Larry's take on the series of events that we heard from Founders Park over the weekend. Looks like we might be having a technical issue with him. 803-404-6100 is the number. Jen, we going to try Gamecock Larry here, or do we need to try again a little bit later on this morning?
I don't know.
Okay, she said she doesn't know right now, so I'm going to say that's we're going to try him a little later on in the show. 803-404-6100. Apologize for the technical difficulties there. We do have the text line up and rolling this morning. The Cool Care Heating and Air text line, same number, that 404-6100, and then the Love Chevy phone lines will get those things up and rolling as well. So, Carey, to avoid a sweep is never a big thing. It's is never how you want to talk about a big weekend, is what I'm trying to say. And this is the difficult part with Carolina baseball, and you've seen it through the years. June Raines, the baseball coach back in your playing days, the program was not at a championship level towards the end of his tenure. He had gotten them to Omaha several times, and he understood where the program was before that with Bobby Richardson and what it was before that. But when Carolina made the adjustment to the SEC, it just frankly wasn't quite there. And then in comes Ray Tanner, and it takes him a little bit to get it going, and then it gets going unlike Gamecock baseball had ever seen, with 3 straight College World Series appearances in 02, 03, and 04, playing for that national championship in 02. Then it was a bit of a lull, with good teams, but not quite good enough to get to the College World Series for 6 years. And then back to another 3-year stretch in 10, 11, and 12 of appearances in Omaha with the back-to-back national championships and playing for a third straight. Since then, though, another lull for Carolina baseball, not being able to get to the College World Series. So I guess my question to you, seeing it from the basketball perspective, where basketball is a really weird sport in a lot of ways, I feel like, Carey, because football we've seen evolve from the Gamecock fan base, where it used to be a pass-fail thing. If the Gamecocks made a bowl game back in the day, when I was watching those independent seasons, then it was a great season. You win a bowl game, it was unheard of until the CarQuest Bowl in, 94. And then Lou Holtz comes in, a couple of Outback Bowls. Steve Spurrier comes in, 3 straight top 10 finishes, and bowl games are completely watered down and all over the place. So it's a little harder to evaluate, I think, a football season. We saw it under Will Muschamp. You go to the Belk Bowl, not considered a great season. You lose that Belk Bowl, and then things kind of fell apart there. In basketball, Carey, if you don't make the NCAA tournament, I think a lot of fans say pass-fail. You failed the season. And in college baseball, for Carolina specifically, making the NCAA tournament, not just enough. Hosting an NCAA tournament, not winning, is not enough. I think a lot of people still go the pass-fail College World Series test, which is pretty unfair, knowing that is the equivalent of Elite Eight in an NCAA basketball tournament. How do you see where the standard is for Gamecock baseball and how Mark Kingston and company will kind of be evaluated here down the stretch this year? Well, it looks like we might be having a technical issue here. I'm going to try to get this thing going. Maybe a good time for a commercial break. I'm guessing that's what we might be doing anyway. You're listening to the early game here. It's 107.5 The Game. Let's do this. Oh, we're just off the air. Beautiful. Okay, Carey, so we're still on the air. We're still on the live stream anyway. Let's see if I can unmute you. Looks like Jen was on the horn probably with our engineer. Carey's still locked into the show, which is not happening right now. Morning, Jason. Perfect Monday morning start for us. Carey, so we're still on the live stream at least. We can yap it up while we're having the technical difficulties on the air. We'll let Jen tell us when we're back on here.
Can you hear me?
Go.
Tim,
can you hear me there?
Yes, I can hear you.
Gotcha. So we're still on the internet. We're just apparently struggling to get on the air. Jen, I'm reconnecting on the access. It said unknown call that I'd never seen before.
Okay. The access is not an issue really. I'm on the phone with Ed and we have nothing. We have no levels, so it doesn't look like the board's putting out any audio.
All right. So we'll just stand by until you tell us we're on the air.
Okay, where's CBS?
So, Carey, my question is, how many accountability sessions did you have with Fogler besides the one that you remember for the Clemson game?
CBS, there it is.
I had 3.
In 2 years, is that right?
Yes. And I remember all 3 like they were yesterday. And I'm 25 years removed.
Right. Number 1 was
over
Clemson.
The Phillies.
Let's hear about
Atlanta's
2
won
and 3.
5 of 6. Now,
I'm sorry.
the injury
number
concerns
1
for
was the
Jacob
Clemson game.
deGrom
We
didn't
might be
pitch
back
earlier
on the
this
air.
week because of right lat inflammation. He left yesterday's start after 5 with different right side issues. Here's his manager, Luis Rojas.
The only good sign that you want
Jen,
to
you tell
probably
us
point
how you
out
wanna
is
do
that
it here. I hear
he
the
stayed
show.
there. You know, it's not that he's walking out yet or
National
anything.
show.
He wanted to talk through it. and saying like maybe I can,
Mike,
maybe I can pitch through this because his tightness. He wasn't anything sore, no
His
pain.
tightness, and it's on lower than his lat on his right
ahead and
side.
try to-
DeGrom called trainers out as he warmed up for the 6th inning. The Mets
Check.
held on
Yeah,
for a
I'm
4-2
here.
win
Are you
over
hearing me?
Arizona. They've reeled
You
off
good?
5 in a row, their longest win streak
Okay, you want
since
to play a
2019.
rejoiner to put us back in, or you just
Spirit
want
is
to
still
break
the
in? What you want to
Kentucky
do?
Derby winner for the moment, and no matter what, your winnings are safe. But the horse has failed a
Do you want to go ahead and play the
post-Derby
break here?
drug test more
we'll
than
do the
2
break.
times the legal limit
Okay.
of
All right.
beta-methazone
I
was
don't know,
found in the
it's
horse's
something
system.
weird is
The
going
Derby
on.
win could
Is
be
it
taken
physical
away,
to-
and maybe Medina
Little
Spirit
mute
can't
Jen
run the
back
Preakness
there.
this weekend.
Never know how that
Shockingly, trainer Bob Baffert says he did nothing wrong, but he
All
has
right,
been
Carey, sorry
suspended
about that.
from
So,
Churchill Downs.
Clemson,
Rory
what about
McIlroy
2 and
won
3?
the Wells Fargo Championship by a shot to end an 18-month
Vanderbilt,
title drought. And Martin
at home
Truex
because
Jr.
I
got
had a
his 3rd
party
win of the NASCAR Cup season at Darlington. He is the only driver with multiple
in the
victories
dorm,
so far this
and
season.
the other one was
The
the
back to
worst.
you.
Excellent. Thank you
Play
both.
that
When we come
Friday.
back, it's a momentous Monday, so an
And, you know, he goes to
inspirational
sleep early.
story
It's
in
8 o'clock.
sports, including excelling at
And
football.
the hotel, we were there in
Man.
Providence, Rhode
Yeah.
Island for like 5 days. The hotel we stayed at.
Man, how can you afford gas for that big
But every
SUV?
New
I
Year,
pay less for
New
gas
Year's
than
Eve
everyone else. I got the free
Providence
Get
blew
Upside
us out. They
gas
had
app.
like
You
4
get up to
NBA
25
games.
cents a gallon cash back every
Not
time I buy
crazy,
gas. Hold on. You're getting up to 25 cents off a gallon with the free Get Upside gas app while I'm paying full price. You know it. People earned over $1 million last year. You just got to take a picture of your gas receipt and bam, up to 25 cents a gallon cash back. You don't have to tell me twice. I'm downloading the free Get Upside gas app now.
Download the free Get Upside app now in the App Store or Google Play to save up to 25 cents a gallon when you buy gas.
Dan Patrick.
That was no fun.
On
On that flight home to make
107.5 The
Normally we
Game.
go to the dome, we took a quick to the gym.
Wow.
One thing that's not debatable, love Chevrolet being one of the greatest.
My bad on the audio there. I still had the station one playing. Not used to getting bumped off the air. I think you should be good now, Travis. Thanks for the heads up. Morning, Anthony. That's a good point by Travis has got here. We'll talk about that a little bit. And then how it pertains to Carolina now. Basketball and baseball.
I wish you could see me trying to read this without any glasses.
You got the readers going these days?
No, I don't, man. I'm fighting it, Tim Hill. I need to stop fighting.
You're just going with the, I'm not going to worry about it.
Exactly.
You're doing this move, you're having to move it away.
Yep. Having to do a lot of adjusting.
I called myself doing that the other day. I was like, oh no, that's the move I've been making fun of my whole life. I hear you, Craig. Can't see his phone without his readers. Maybe that's
I really
a poll
only
question you
struggle,
throw out
and
there.
I struggle at night when I'm not familiar with where I'm driving to, and I struggle when I'm watching television and trying to read the writing at the bottom of the screen. I just give completely up, man. I don't even worry about what's getting written down there. I'll catch it later.
But Jen, do you think we are smooth sailing here or no?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Are there any constraints we're working with here, or should we be good to go?
I guess we're okay. I mean, I was not getting any audio going through the board. And Carey and I have had a little trouble this morning already with his mic, getting it to work. I don't know if there was a glitch, if there's a mouse in the board. I have no idea.
But I'll tell you one thing, Jen looks like a old veteran point guard because she did not panic. She got us to the next play.
Well, some might say, well, you should have done this, should have done that. Okay, I'm just trying to be on the air. So, yeah. Anyway. So we'll just see what happens. You know, it's Monday.
All right. So is Gamecock Larry still waiting on the old phone line?
He had hung up and called back, and I told him that we were off the air, so maybe just kind of hang tight. But he hung up again, so I'll let you know when he's back.
All right. We'll roll the dice and try to blow it all up again.
That's my goal.
All right. So if your Monday morning isn't off to a great start, you can imagine how Jim feels back there. So what else would be on the poll question of sure signs that you're getting older? Need the reading glasses for sure. To me, it's the random pains you wake up with. I'm pretty sure I messed up my shoulder pretty good just by sleeping on it wrong one time. And now it doesn't quite go all the way up.
Hey, well,
Didn't quite make it.
My buddies and I laugh about we're not able to just pop up out of our chairs like we used to. Just be able to.
Right.
We used to be able to just pop up out of our chairs, and now, man, we have to kind of rock and gather ourselves and
Get the old man grunt going.
Yeah. And as athletes, man, especially like as like high level athletes, man, that is hard to accept. That is so hard to accept. I was just with my buddy Joe Rett the other day, and we were talking about, man, how we used to be able to just pop up and hang out all night and party and get up and do it all over again. And the worst thing about those 2 or 3 days, just kind of having a headache. Outside of that, man, we're ready to rock and roll, do it all over again.
Wouldn't have guessed that one, Craig. You go with hair in the ears, huh? Hair in the ears. Definitely means you're good.
All right. We're about to head back in.
Good luck, Jen. Good luck.
May the force be with me.
Hi there again, I think. If we ever experience technical difficulties like that again and you would like to vent while we're not on the air, you can just call our Hot Take hotline that is there for you 24/7. 803-978-6654. You ever need to vent? Hot Take hotline is there for you, sponsored by Twin Peaks for the men who never settle. Go see them down in the Vista at 600 Gervais Street. I think what I was yapping about while we had a bit of a technical glitch, and thanks to Jen Jensen and your patience for getting us right back to where we need to be, was yapping about what happened to Gamecock baseball over the weekend and avoiding the sweep, not what you want to do. What Carolina baseball has been in the past, the standard is so high that you want to make sure that not only you make the NCAA tournament,
is kind of the pass fail in college basketball for a lot of programs. And certainly that's how it is for South Carolina basketball, having not made the NCAA tournament very many times recently. Just 2 times this century now, 2017 and 04. You make the NCAA tournament, it's a successful season. That's how it's viewed now. College baseball, if South Carolina makes the NCAA tournament, that's not how it's viewed. You got to make it all the way to Omaha, I think, for Gamecock baseball to be viewed as a positive season because of that massive standard that's been set. Carey, is that how you see things right now for Gamecock baseball, Mark Kingston in year number 4?
Sure. And I think that's how everybody sees it. I think that's how Mark Kingston saw it when he took the job. The expectations are a lot different. I think he experienced that early on in his coaching tenure here. But he understands it. And I think whenever you take a job like this, the one thing you absolutely have to do is embrace those expectations. We've watched and we've appreciated Dawn Staley from afar with how she's built that women's program, and not only how she's built it, but how she's not afraid to talk about the expectations, how she's not afraid to embrace the expectations. And I think the players have done a really, really good job of also embracing the expectations. And that's why we've seen them play at the level that they've played. And I think baseball certainly shares the same expectations. And the really, really good thing about it is it's not a secret. Again, Kingston knows it. He knew it before he took the job. And I think he quickly finds out, even knowing it and taking the job, and now, experiencing the expectations and the lofty goals and everything that comes along with that is can get tough sometimes. But this is what you sign up for when you play baseball for Carolina. There's a long history of success, a sustained level of success, and that gives you something to play for. There's a motivation in it just with that alone. Now it's about being able to go out and get it done, and again, embracing everything that comes along with the high goals and lofty goals and expectations that we certainly know to be associated with this baseball program.
Interesting take on Facebook Live. Our buddy Travis hits us up and says this baseball team reminds him, from a hitting standpoint, of a basketball team that might not be a great shooting team, but is a streaky shooting team or streaky shooter. When it's on, it's unstoppable. When it's off, it can be bad. Carey, what's your take on that? Because in my mind, there are good shooting teams and there are streaky shooting teams, right? I think we've seen it through the years from the Gamecock perspective, where it's been streaky. And that has been one of the issues for sure in the last several years for Frank Martin and company, game in and game out. Man, if they're making threes, let's just go this past season. Like against Georgia, they shot the ball pretty well both times, I think, and completely blew a pretty good Georgia team out of the water. Made them look like they couldn't even compete. And then outside of that, in SEC play, it was a struggle for Carolina in a lot of ways. Do you see any kind of correlation between streaky shooting basketball teams and what this Gamecock baseball team is from a hitting perspective, like Travis does?
Yes, and the common denominator is confidence. Even as a streaky shooter or a streaky hitter, you need to have some degree of success. And once you have that degree of success, it makes it just a little bit easier the next time out. And I don't care what level you're talking about. I don't care what sport you're talking about. Just, confidence is the common denominator for every degree of success that's shared in sports. So I do see a similarity, and I think it's a very good analogy. Confidence certainly appears to be the common thread, a common denominator that connects the two examples.
So then the question becomes, you talk about accountability sessions from coaches to players. You talk about coaches who understand the expectation. Your coach in Eddie Fogler had a high expectation, certainly coming from the North Carolina program and kind of his breeding grounds, and then having success at Vanderbilt, National Coach of the Year, coming to Carolina, winning the school's first SEC championship a few years after you were gone. Mark Kingston, like you said, understands the expectation going to the College World Series. And then you got to get on your guys. How do you get on your guys one night and then come back the next day and say, no, I have confidence in you? That's a tricky line that coaches have to walk, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But it's a line that they must walk. And in sports, certainly at this high level, you're taught to have a short memory. And it's all about the next play. It's all about the next day. And it's just like a parent having to have that tough conversation with your child or with your kid. Hey, I love you. This is tough love, but this is what we have to do to get better. And it's understood. Players understand it. While it's not fun, it's something that needs to happen, and it's something that will happen every team, every sport.
Yeah, to me, it's easy to have that conversation with my 8-year-old. You're not a bad person. You made a bad choice. I think it's more difficult to say you're not a bad hitter. You made a bad swing, and we believe in you the next time, especially if it's not going good and it keeps building and keeps building. We will keep building here on the show. The captain, Carey Rich, helping to fill in for Bill Gunter this morning. The early game rolling on with the Gamecocks avoiding a sweep as we head into hour number 2 here on 107.5 The Game.
WNKT-FM, Eastover, Columbia. 075 The Game. WNKT.
All right, we survived it. We made it.
We did.
Back on the live stream. All right, looks like Jen's got the editing done, so we can hear a little bit of that coming in hour number 2. Let's see. I'm trying to go back to the aging thing in my head. Had a high school teacher that told me at 29, that's when he really noticed things slowing down from an athletic standpoint. You have a number in your head? Because I don't necessarily have a number, because that was really good at some point.
Yeah, I don't have a number either, but I have a weight gain. That's when it slowed down for me. That's when I was done. I used the excuse that when my kids were born, which was 2006, I used the excuse that my focus completely shifted because now I had 2 responsibilities, and just playing basketball wasn't all that important. But there was a direct correlation with me gaining weight and my kids being born. So that was the indication that, as a matter of fact, I didn't play any more pickup basketball since 2006, after my kids were born, and didn't miss it. Did not miss it at all.
Well, don't you think that's because you feel like you resolved any kind of issues? You maxed it out and you kind of cashed in your chips and you're good?
No, that's exactly the way I saw it. Because you got to realize I was one of those guys that had to work really, really hard. I wasn't going to out-jump anyone. Now I was going to outrun most people. But, on the court, being only 6'1" means you were one of the smallest guys on the floor every single night in the SEC. And to impact the game, you just had to play really, really hard. So when I say I lived it, I gave it everything that I had. And when I walked away, I was actually at peace. I didn't miss it at all because I knew I gave it all that I did. Over my entire life, since 9 years old, I gave it everything. And to play at that level, you have to give it everything. So when I walked away, I was good. I cashed in my chips, and you're right, I was good.
Yeah, I feel like that's the problem you see with a lot of guys that are still trying to prove something one way or another. Weekend warriors or coaching their kids.
Yeah, they live it, and that has actually helped me with my son. As much as I want to see him succeed, there's not that added burden or that added pressure from me to him, because I'm not trying to live it vicariously through him. I've been there and I've done that. I understand what needs to happen. I understand what you need to have in terms of how it translates to becoming a really good player. I understand that, certain things from a nature standpoint need to happen, like growing and all of that good stuff. But I've had several people to say to me, man, I watch you during the game and you don't show any emotion. You don't show any type of reaction, good or bad. I said, well, because I've been around it long enough. I've been in it, and I know that there's a whole lot more to the game than that one play. I know that there's more to the game than just that one game. So I celebrate it, or I have conversations with my son, but you're not going to see me react in a way to where it's almost like the end of the world. That's added pressure for your kid.
Does he ever get on you about not cheering for him enough?
No, because he has my same exact personality. I wasn't like that as a player. I was never a rah-rah guy. I am more passionate right now on radio than I was as a player. I hardly showed any emotion. Now with my players, I was, they knew it, but you was never going to see me. You were never going to see me dancing or showboating, or you may see me high five or get into one of my teammates. Hey man, yo, we got to get that, man. But outside of that, you just weren't going to see anything else. I was kind of operating with just a resolve, never too high, never too low. And that's just kind of how I kind of go about my life, to be honest with you.
Right. Yeah, I'm similar.
And it works for me.
Right. Jen, looks like we're back, ready to roll. 3 breaks this hour. Got all the audio ready to go to.
Yes.
I sound pumped.
Well, to all those who are listening, if you want to call and share your sentiments on how you've had to be on hold too long and that the host talked too much and that we must be making a lot of money because we play a lot of commercials, bite me. Okay? Just saying.
That was good, Jim. What a setup.
I'm writing that down. That was going on the YouTube page as a standalone clip. Hey.
Do my hair first.
Monday, 5:10. Jen Jensen, advice for callers. Now we got to name names. Was that our buddy Boudreaux this morning?
Actually, no, it's not.
This morning? Did you get a name? You get a name attached to that?
Mr. Ted.
But he's the one still on hold right now.
He's gonna hang for a while. Not a long time, but he's gonna hang for a little bit.
Classic.
I know.
Ted needs to talk it out.
I said and then he said, sorry to vent. I was like, I hope you feel better.
Wow. Can we do number 1 off the top here? Then go 5 and 2 back to back. 1, 5, and 2.
Yep.
Thank you.
The game.
A 1 hit well. In the air to left center field. A lot of Carey. To the wall, off the wall. Rounding second and heading for third is Heinrich. They will send him home. Here's the throw from Forsythe. It is off 9, and the Gamecocks with it. An RBI double from David Mendham in the 11th inning.
It was awesome. I mean, it's a big team win. You need to get the momentum going. It was kind of funny. Right before that Jeff's at bat, I was like, come on, me and you, let's get it started. It kind of went right as planned. It was kind of weird, actually, but it was cool.
You got to have grit. That's why you got to have good attitudes and team attitudes, because you never know when your number is going to be called. Yeah. Probably the biggest game of the year for us to win right there.
Carolina coach Mark Kingston concluding that little segment of audio. You heard from the hero of yesterday's ball game for the Gamecock perspective, David Mendham, about his game-winning walk-off hit in the 11th inning, talking about what he and Jeff Heinrich did. It was Heinrich coming around to score, and both those guys have been kind of in and out of the lineup. Mendham out of the lineup on Saturday as the starting first baseman for most of the season, but just didn't factor in, had some considerations from an injury standpoint, and Josiah Seitler not ready to play in the outfield, so they made some adjustments from a lineup standpoint. He was out on Saturday, right back in on Sunday, and coming through with a 2-run homer to give the Gamecocks the early lead, some confidence that they needed after dropping the first 2 games of the series to Mississippi State. Then still down 3-2 in the 9th inning, it was Jeff Heinrich, who has been one of the starting third baseman this year for the Gamecocks. I believe he started the season actually maybe as a starting second baseman, but hasn't hit the way that he's wanted to. And yet he comes in relatively late in the ball game, gets a massive RBI in the 9th inning to tie the game up at 3. Then gets on in the 11th inning there. He's on first base when Mendham hits it off the fence, almost leaves the yard in left center field. Said his mindset was to kind of beat the shift that Mississippi State had on, so to go the other way. Heinrich motors around from first. Gamecocks get the win. Avoid a sweep, which would be, the captain, Carey Rich, helping to fill in for Bill Gunter this morning. Bill will be doing Heath's show one last time before getting back to our regular schedule. Carey, if Carolina had not come back in that 9th inning last night, and we would be talking about how many losses in a row? What did I say? They got swept against Ole Miss. They lost the first 2 against Mississippi State. That was 5. They had lost their last game against Arkansas in the series before that. So it was 6 straight SEC games. If it would have been 7, we're talking about gloom and doom this morning. We're talking about not only is Carolina likely not to host an NCAA regional, but just making the NCAA tournament with a couple of series left in regular season play at Kentucky this weekend, and then Tennessee at home, which is a co-leader in the conference right now with Arkansas. That would be the conversation, and it shows you how important one game can be this time of year for a college baseball program, because Mark Kingston, another one of his comments afterwards was, well, the RPI is number 12 right now. It was a big win. Told the team beforehand, if you want to host an NCAA regional, you need to win the game Sunday against Mississippi State. Carolina did it, and now they at least stay in the conversation at this point after ending that SEC losing streak, showing a little bit of grit, determination, and avoiding disaster is kind of how I see it, Carey. What about you?
Yeah, and he also said it was the biggest win of the season for them. And when you think about the importance and you think about how it impacts the bigger picture, certainly was a win that was needed. And we talked about it in hour number 1. Just look at the last 3 opponents the Gamecocks have faced. Arkansas, Ole Miss, Mississippi State. Certainly they're 3 of the best teams in the SEC, but they're also 3 of the best teams in all of college baseball. And I know that's what you sign up for when you're in the SEC. You get that high level competition week in and week out. But certainly, if you want to position yourselves to host, then you got to win a few of these games. And as crazy as it sounds, even losing the series, still managing to win the last game so that you close out that series on a winning note. What you're hoping for is that carries into the next series against Kentucky. Obviously, we got Clemson before that. But yes, a big game, a big win for them. And, he also talked about grit and determination and just being ready when your number called. And I could just tell you as a player, man, only the special ones can do that. When you're in and out of the lineup, you haven't had the opportunity to create any type of consistency, any type of rhythm, and you got to be ready in the big moment when your number is called. And when you're able to do that, that certainly speaks to your level of commitment. It speaks to your concentration. And, some players, regardless of the sport, Tim Hill, are just built for those moments. It's not easy, but having your number called and showing that grit, showing that level of connection to the moment, certainly something to be commended. And it looks like that was the case yesterday.
Well, it's going to have to continue for Carolina if they want to have any kind of chance of hosting the NCAA regional. Again, later this week, I believe it's tomorrow, where the NCAA will announce 20 regional sites as candidates, finalists for the 16 regional sites this year. It's much different than in years past. They're putting it out early because of extra COVID protocols. And the Gamecocks sitting at 12-12 now in the SEC, having started 10-5, certainly trending in the wrong direction. But again, avoiding disaster with the walk-off win yesterday, avoiding a sweep at home to Mississippi State, who is certainly one of the better teams in college baseball. And now you get a Kentucky team that's a game behind you in the standings. They certainly need all the wins that they can get this weekend. The series at Lexington, Kentucky. But before that, you get the 3rd and final game with Clemson. And that's coming up tomorrow. So you talk about building some confidence. And I was a bit surprised when you were talking about Travis had hit us up at the end of hour number 1, talking about how this team kind of reminds him of a streaky shooter. And when it's hot, and when it's not, it's not. And you're all about confidence. And I'm amazed hearing from you. It's not just from you, Carey, but it's Perry Orth has talked about this as a former Gamecock quarterback, how important confidence is to the quarterback position specifically. I think it's easy for those of us from the outside to forget about it because guys are at such a high level, and I think we might take for granted that they have as solid a foundation as possible, and confidence shouldn't be an issue when you've already accomplished everything that top SEC athletes have accomplished just getting to that spot. But it's still there, and it's still a big thing, and it's still something that coaches kind of have to foster, and that's the difficult part of the job, wouldn't you say?
Oh, no doubt. And I think you said it best when you're looking at it from the perimeter, or when you're looking at a player at this level from the surface. You automatically assume that from a confidence standpoint that a player is capable. Now you're just looking at the skill set and some of the other things that go along with that. But your skill set doesn't matter if you don't have confidence. And you could take it beyond that. I think confidence permeates throughout every facet of society. You got to feel good about yourself, which is why you talk about coaches and you hear coaches and you often see that reinforcement of tearing them down, but not leaving them there, which is why assistant coaches, when you talk about a coaching staff, you got to have that balance. Good cop, bad cop. And in most cases, the head coach is going to be the bad cop. That's going to be the guy that's going to shred you to pieces. That's going to be the guy that's going to dissect or challenge every facet of your competitive bone or your competitive spirit. And it's so important for that assistant coach to come back and lift you up so that you are believing in yourself, that you feel like you're capable. And just from a basketball standpoint, when you talk about shooting, there's an old adage that as a jump shooter, if you're not making those shots and you're not feeling good about those shots, the one thing that you absolutely have to be able to do is just see that basketball go through the hoop. Get you a layup. All you need to do, and I don't know whether it's true or not, but that adage has been around forever, Tim Hill. Hey, just go and get your layup. You just need to see the ball go through the hoop. And once you see that basketball go through the hoop, now all of a sudden, from a confidence standpoint, you're feeling good about yourself. As a quarterback, I can imagine if you get on the streak and you're hitting 8 out of 9 throws, and man, you're feeling pretty good about yourself. But now, conversely, if you're hitting only 2 out of 9 throws, and you know what? Now you're playing a little bit more passively. You're a lot more reluctant to take a chance. You're playing too safely, and when you're at that level, man, that's the one thing you can't do as a point guard, as a quarterback. When you're trying to play safe, oftentimes it becomes counterproductive, and that's where that confidence comes in. You got to believe in yourself. You got to believe in your skill set, and the more success you have or you find with that mindset, more times than often, the more successful you're going to be. But make no mistake, I don't care what it looks like from the perimeter. As a matter of fact, I don't care what level you're talking about, even at the professional level. If confidence is not a part of the equation, as a matter of fact, if confidence is not a part, is not one of the most important variables in the equation, then 9 times out of 10, you're not going to see a certain degree of success.
He's the captain, Carey Rich, at the captain _03, where you can follow him on Twitter. I'm Tim Hill at Tim Hill 1075. Jen Jensen holding things down, producing from the Herndon Chevrolet Studios at Jen Jensen Morse, where you can find her on Twitter. Bill Gunter will be filling in for Heath Klein this afternoon from 4 to 7. He'll be back joining us. He and Patrick Perrette both will be back with the full morning crew starting tomorrow. Boy, interesting take on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line, 803-404-6100, talking about Gamecock athletics, not just this baseball team, but kind of across the board. We'll get to that when we come back. Also, that Love Chevrolet phone line up and rolling. Same number, 803-404-6100. You talk about inspiring confidence. I think our favorite 86-year-old caller does that with some Gamecock fans every now and again, speaking confidently. We'll see what Gamecock Larry thinks about Gamecock baseball now after dropping 2 out of 3 to Mississippi State over the weekend. And who knows where the show will go. Glad to have the captain, Carey Rich, helping to fill in for Bill Gunter. It's the early game here on 107.5 The Game.
the home of the Gamecocks, and new head football coach, Shane Beamer.
I'm a process-driven.
Oh, he's getting in the rhythm with the headphones off. Oh, boy.
Man, it doesn't take me long to figure it out, man.
Athletes make the adjustment. Nice work.
Yep.
Even when you've already told us that you hung it up in 2006, 15 years ago.
But I never stopped thinking like an athlete. I still think like an athlete. Everything that I do in my life is all predicated on my mindset as an athlete.
Is your mindset as an athlete or as a competitor?
Well, I think they go hand in hand. I don't think you could be an athlete at this level if you're not a true competitor. And my experience as an athlete at the SEC level. So that's the mindset that I'll always have with me.
Yeah, to me, I make the distinction just because I think some people still stick with that physical part of it. And I think other people, I guess to me, they're two parts. They're two different type of big-time SEC athletes. They're the ones who are just so extremely gifted that they got there. Yep. Right? And then they're the other ones that got there more off of the mental edge and competitive edge they were able to develop and have obviously enough physical skills, but were never the most physically gifted and weren't able to kind of coast on that.
Well, I think one of the biggest misconceptions is most athletes won't have that exceptional skill set or physical skills. Those guys are rare. And you know who those guys are. Everybody else is pretty much in the same pool, a group of student athletes. And what separates the rest of us is that mental edge, that willingness to compete, toughness, IQ, commitment. But that player that's exceptional, those players are rare. And you only have a few of them per team. There aren't a lot of them. And everybody else is separated by the things I just mentioned. But yeah, I think like an athlete, mentally, physically. I just can't do the things I
Yeah, it's just interesting. I just played golf the other day with Brian Jeffcoat, who you know a little bit from hopping in the radio with us and had played baseball. And I know I think you guys crossed paths on the radio once, but
yeah,
it was just interesting seeing him on the golf course. The mindset, you can tell, like the competitive mindset is still there for sure.
Yep. That's like I was out working out with my son. Normally I pass him the basketball and kind of help him go through things, but we kind of did the shooting drill. And I wish you could have seen how I shifted mindsets just to let him know that, you know what, your dad was pretty good, and I'm going to let you know how much I'm concentrating on making a shot. And after we worked out, he was like, man, Dad, you were moving around pretty good out there. Just in a matter of 15, 20 minutes, my mindset shifted. And right. I just need to let the 16-year-old know that as much as I've taught you, this is what I used to do. And it just happens. It's habitual, it's second nature, and you can't control it.
I didn't play like in college or, anything like that as far as like golf is concerned. But we went to Top Golf yesterday. And it's been a bit since I've been able to swing a club, so it started out a little rough. Man, I was in it to get that swing back, and they're just up there taking their time, and man, no, and they're like, just hit. I'm like, no, man, I got to figure it out. Like, what?
Yeah. That kind of goes back to what I said Friday. That once the game starts, there's a new game. There's always a game within the game. So once you start, now, okay. No, I got to get to the next. I got to get this thing figured out.
Yep.
And that's how real games are. You go in with the game plan, and then something happens. Now a new game has started, so now you have to adjust to the new game.
Pivot. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, I can definitely feel myself in those environments. Like, I definitely kick back automatically to extreme competition mode. But as I've gotten older, I've been able to at least zoom out of that. I mean, like, all right. Dumbest thing, the reason, one of the ways I got there, I was playing it like there's some kind of media versus, I don't know, firefighters or something game they had. This is forever ago at the Colonial Life Arena. And they're like kids there, and that's who it's for. And idiot self, I'm in high school basketball mode, right? There's about to be a breakaway against us, and I'm like, foul, gotta foul that guy. And afterwards, I'm like, what did I just do? Like the one exciting play that would have been in the game, I kept that from everybody being able to experience that. What an idiot. Jen, let's do a Kingston comment.
Okay. Straight in.
I'll do a liner right here.
Okay. All right, you're up.
$25,000 on the line. It's the 25K workday payday here on 107.5 The Game. First to 10 chances today, tomorrow, and Wednesday is what you got left. So by my math, 30 chances to win $100 and qualify to get entered into the drawing for the grand prize jackpot of $25,000. 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. every top of the hour. A secret keyword will announce that. You text it into 95819. You got a chance to win in our 25K workday payday here on 107.5 The Game. Right now, I wanted you to hear a little bit more from Carolina baseball coach Mark Kingston after the big walk-off win in 11 innings
yesterday that helped Carolina avoid the sweep against Mississippi State.
Today was a big day. I didn't shy away from it with our guys before the game. I didn't say anything other than this is a big game for you. You want to be in consideration to host still. It's a game you need to win, and they got checked after today's game. Our RPI is 12. So if they're naming 20 sites that they think are the top 20 sites that deserve to be considered a host, I would think 12 RPI gives you a shot.
Again, that was Gamecock baseball coach Mark Kingston, and I give him credit there. To me, I would like to think, Carey, through the years, I have developed an ear for hearing when coaches are just filling the space and giving us
I
coach
knew you
speak.
were going there.
I saw your good. I feel like he clicked over there. He's like, "Yep, all right, I'm going to give you the real stuff here for about 20 seconds, then I'll go back into coach mode. But here's the deal. Here's where we were, and this is how I actually talk to my team behind closed doors." Because this was our whole conversation on Friday, right? This was, is Jimbo Fisher doing the right thing by putting it out there that he's going to beat Nick Saban and the whole deal? And to me, I think some people got it confused. I'm not saying you can't be confident. You got to be confident. You got to tell your players you believe in them. You got to get that internal confidence. But I think there is a danger in letting that anything internal get external. And coaches, this is what they do all the time, especially these big-time college coaches now. It's their job most of the time to keep that internally and to make sure nobody gets inside. Because we talked about it multiple times, Carey. It is very simple in sports. Mm-hmm. There is in the locker room and there's everything else.
Yep.
And even though we like to think, as media people or fans, we get a peek or we get some insight to what's going on there, or we get a very small percentage of the actual story. And that's just what it's going to be, right? I mean, you can appreciate Steve Spurrier for being a little bit more transparent and forthright than a lot of other people, and he was, but he could be because he was that good, right? But still, the percentage is nowhere close to 100% what we got from Steve Spurrier and what we got from the Gamecock football program as to what was happening behind closed doors and what everybody in the locker room knew. And that's just the way it is. So for Mark Kingston, baseball coaches to a large degree, I mean, he's a great example. They have the bracelet this year, the wristband, 1-0 today, right? Well, guess what? Mark Kingston understood even himself and clearly let his team in on it. Yesterday wasn't about going 1-0. It was about where they were in their season. And if you wanted to host a regional, you needed to win that game. It wasn't just the, hey, we need to win this game because it's the next game on our schedule. It's the most important game kind of line that you always get from coaches. It was, hey, you guys want to stay here in the postseason? You want to have the chance to earn that? Then you got to win. You got to win the game, because that's where they had put themselves with the losing streak in the SEC with 6 straight losses, I think it was, in going into that game yesterday. And it wasn't a pretty situation. And I think so. We've gotten the typical naysayers on the text line this morning saying, "Oh, it sounds like you guys think that the Gamecocks won the series with the way that you're talking about it." No, they won the game yesterday, and we're talking about that. We understand they didn't win the series. And we started the show by talking about your accountability session that you called it, with Mark Kingston not even allowing his players on the field after the game on Friday night for their usual post-game chat. He sent them to the locker room, and it was more than a post-game chat. It was a, hey, this is where we are, and it's unacceptable, and you better figure it out real quick. And unfortunately for the Gamecocks, they didn't figure it out the next day, but they did. They didn't roll over and lose that thing 9-1. They came back, made it respectable, at least forced Mississippi State to go to their closer, which did have a bit of a carryover effect on Sunday. And now Gamecock baseball is where it is, Carey. What kind of takeaway did you hear from Mark Kingston? And in your experience, how often do coaches allow us that glimpse into the actual message they're giving their team and the actual kind of pulse of where the program is?
Yeah, a few things come to mind. And first of all, as soon as I heard him say, I let them know this is where we are and this is what it is, I knew exactly you were going there because of how much you enjoy and how much you absolutely love coach speak. So I knew that was going to get you excited. But 2 things come to mind. I think he was forced to take that stance and approach the situation the way he approached it because of, one, as we spoke about it earlier, this is how it is at the University of South Carolina when it comes to baseball. There are expectations and there are lofty goals that are in place, and there's nowhere around it. You can't hide from it. So not only as a coach, you're going to embrace it, but you also have to set the tone that when players sign a scholarship to play or they sign up to play here at the University of South Carolina, these are the expectations. This is what we're playing for. This is our rich history. This is our rich tradition. These are the guys. These are the players before us. These are the teams before us. There are standards here that we're trying to reach. And if you're going to be a part of this program, then this is the approach. This is how we're going to go about it. And these are the expectations that are in place. Secondly, go back to when, Mark Kingston had the players to go to the locker room as opposed to, staying on the field. And you talk about coach speak. Well, in sports, we call those sessions accountability sessions because that's when you have the raw conversations. That's when you have the real conversations. That's when those conversations aren't comfortable at all. They're tough. And as players, every fabric of your competitive bone, every fabric of your competitive spirit is all tested. And you quickly figure out whether you're built for this, whether you're serious about this. And the ones that are serious, the ones that are connected, the ones that can take that constructive criticism, the ones that can kind of conduct that self-inventory, those are the ones that respond. And the ones that can't, because I'm telling you, they're the most uncomfortable conversations. And what's said publicly, what's said in front of cameras, what's said in front of the media, none of those things are said in the locker room. And you're challenged, my friend. And the ones that are serious about it, as I said earlier, the ones that are serious about it, they respond. The ones that are not serious about it, then they may not respond so well. But that's why I think he took the approach that he took by reminding them how important yesterday's game was. And no, we're not celebrating one win, but I do think if you don't win that game, it's a lot worse today than it would be going into Tuesday's game and this weekend's game with a tad bit more confidence as opposed to the opposite.
And doing it the way you did it, down 3-2 in the ninth inning, winning it in walk-off fashion in 11 probably helps as well. And I know what helps our show is to have someone who used to conduct accountability sessions on the regular as a drill sergeant back in the day, our favorite 86-year-old caller, Gamecock Larry. He understands accountability and expectations for Gamecock athletics. Wondering your take this morning on Gamecock baseball after what you saw over the weekend. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How you doing, Jim, Tim, and Captain? Accountability, Tim. I was beginning to think you were like the extra point host. Didn't want to talk to the old man. That's okay. But I put the TV on game yesterday, put it on mute, had my radio on, and I watched every pitch of that game. And boy, I'll tell you, we came through. But 6-game losing streak in the SEC. But yesterday was the first game of an 8-game winning streak. We are coming out to Clemson tonight. We're going to go to Kentucky, and we're going to take Kentucky to the woodshed. And we're coming back home. I don't know whether we play a midweek game or not, but if we do, we'll take that one. And Tennessee, we've been waiting on Tennessee since football season. Come on down. We're going to really win 3 out of 3, and that's going to be an 8-game winning streak. And yes, we will host a regional. That is, take it to the bank. That is, I don't know what I'm going to say. I got all riled up. But go Gamecocks. Nice talking to you. And Captain.
Yes, sir.
I'll tell you what, but I remember when you used to do the same thing. When you miss a free throw, you get all upset. But that's the way you got to do it. You got to be upset when you ain't doing what you're supposed to do. Go Gamecocks.
Gamecock Larry, ladies and gentlemen. And just a part of the accountability, there is another midweek game against Appalachian State, and it would be a 10-game win streak, but, those are details.
Gamecock Larry takes me back to my junior year at South Carolina. We're playing Mississippi State, and, man, I have an unreal game, 18 points, 9 assists. We're up 2 with 4 seconds to go. I'm at the free throw line. All I need to do is make one worst-case scenario. If they heave up a three-pointer, it's a tied game. We go to overtime. I missed both free throws on the heels of a great game. I missed both free throws. Mississippi State gets the rebound. The guy takes 2 dribbles, and he heaves a shot up from almost half court, and it goes in. We lose at the buzzer. The longest walk to the locker room, the worst feeling I've ever had. Fast forward the next week, we're up against Kentucky, the year that we upset them. And I'm at the free throw line again with about 2 minutes to go. And, of course, I don't care what anybody says, man. I'm thinking about last week, right? I'm thinking about the last game. And I missed the first free throw. And one of our fans right behind the goal says, there's Rich again missing the free throw. You have no idea how much pressure was on me to make that second free throw. But I made it, man. So, yeah, you hang your head, but you better get that head up real quickly, bud, because the game is not stopping.
No doubt about it. The show's not stopping either. Good to hear from Gamecock Larry. Great way to finish out the first half of the show. We kick off the second half. Coming up next, the Captain Carey Rich helping to fill in for Bill Gunter here on the early game, 107.5 The Game.
Your 24/7 sports station.
I'm feeling pretty good. Pretty good.
107.5 The Game.
As Carey was talking about that, made me think about the professional mindset that you got to have in sports these days, or at a high level of sports, I should say. If you're looking for a little professional help around your house, like that's where I am around my house these days, because our 1-year-old continues to wear us out. We got the 6 and the 8-year-old as well, always causing some sort of issue or mess. Fortunately, we've had zero res. Carpet and air duct cleaning come out to our house a couple of times, done a great job cleaning my carpets, cleaning an area rug for me, freshening up the tiles in both the kitchen and bathroom at my house. Great results. Impressed my wife. But what was really important to us is that zero res cleans differently than anybody else. They have a patented powered water system. They crank up the pH in the water. You can find out all those details if you're into that chemistry kind of stuff. ZeroResColumbia.com. Also, no leftover soapy residue from the Zero Res patented powered water system. That's why my carpets have stayed cleaner longer. That is especially important these days when the 1-year-old is still in the phase. I'm hoping this thing is almost done. I think it is getting a little bit better, but of finding things on the floor and then picking them up and eating them. Actually, we were eating outdoors earlier over the weekend, and there were some rocks there, and I was like, I'll give him a chance. Surely the kid's not going to pick up the rocks and try to eat them. Nope, that's exactly what he did. So zero res, especially important in my life these days. Let them help you as well. They've got a great deal for you. 3 rooms of carpet cleaned, only $119 plus a free hallway when you mention me, Tim Hill. 803-262-4020 is the number. ZeroResColumbia.com is the website. Book your appointment today. It's Zero Res. Spell it backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean.
From the Shepherd's Glass Traffic Center, Shepherd's Glass.
There we go. We got him back up now. Gotcha, man.
You got me, bro?
So, yeah, got the text coming up that is trying to equate Gamecock baseball to the other sports going on in Carolina these days, men's sports. So we'll do that when we come back, and that should pretty much take us through the hour, I think.
Sounds good.
I'm convinced most of our texts are just there to get the negative thoughts out of the way. I'm glad it's there for folks.
Yeah.
Agreed, Waddy. That's the scholarship fund I'm setting up. Let you come babysit sometime. Yeah, I forgot. There's a big difference. So, Carey, I was 35 when we had our first child, 37 when we had number 2. So the last time I had a 1-year-old, I was 38, and now I'm 43, and there's definitely a difference.
There's a difference, right?
Well, also, I think this 1-year-old is a little bit more active than the last one I had, and that probably makes a difference.
So is he?
Yeah, he turned 1 on a couple of weeks. He's 13 months now, I guess, if you really want to get into it. It's flying, man.
I'm telling you.
My parents had me when they were 40 and 43, and I take credit for keeping them young. You know, we lost my dad at 91. My mom just turned 93. So it's all me. So,
wow.
You know.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I need you to talk to my youngest. You can pass along some secrets of longevity.
There you go.
I think that would be constant pranking and fighting with your sisters. Is that the key to success?
Yep. No, I didn't really fight with them that much because they were so much older. Like my one sister's 13 years older and the other's 8 years. But I watched them fight. Like there's one time that I watched Jane pound Julie's head into the organ, and it kind of freaked me out a little bit. So I kind of hid in the corner, while mom and dad were gone.
There's so many things there. You guys had an organ at the house, is that right?
Yeah, we had an organ and a piano. My mom was a musician, so.
Nice. My grandmother had an organ at her house, too. I thought she might have been the only person.
Nope. Yep. Used to play. Playing piano was my stress relief, but didn't do the organ a whole bunch. But yeah, that was exciting. So.
Chavo, I'm not trying to talk you out of having another one, especially since you're 41. I'm just saying I was not prepared because I had not acknowledged mentally that I am that much older, or I hadn't figured out that I was that out of shape or just not into it. Yeah, I know, Travis. It does seem like we were just breaking that down the other day. Yeah, Waddy, do it.
Oh.
I would say if you're in the conversation and you're talking about it, you definitely want to explore it as much as possible so you don't regret it later on. That's my only advice there, but everybody's situation is obviously different, man.
Yeah.
See what you've started, Tim Hill?
That's what I do. That's what I do.
And I'm trying to talk you to another one.
Turn a carpet cleaning service commercial into a conversation about life and kids.
Perfect. All right, we're back in.
Cool Care Heating and Air text line. Interesting thoughts here from Tim, not me. This is Tim, the texter, on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. He asked the question, when is the last time South Carolina has had a consistent, dominant team in all categories of the game? I sat back after the baseball game yesterday, looked at South Carolina sports as a whole, the big three. He's talking about men's basketball, football, and baseball. And they've all had the same thing in common for some time now, inconsistency. They beat the teams we are unsure they're able to and struggle when they shouldn't. They're really good at times, showing their skills to beat everyone. And then the next game, they fall off for whatever reason. It's an interesting thing, really. That's from Tim the Texter. Carey, I don't think I could completely disagree more. I think as fans, sometimes you can convince yourself that your team or program is really good at times. I would say the football team at South Carolina has been the opposite of that. Now, you got in a big win against Georgia a couple of years ago. That has been the anomaly. A pretty good win, I think is how I'm going to say it. Not quite on the same level this year against Auburn. Certainly outside of those two games, it ain't been pretty. And it's been uncompetitive a lot of times with 16 losses now in the last two seasons. You want to go basketball? I'm with you until the losses continue to mount and the uncompetitive losses, especially towards the end of last season. I get it that you wanted them to be that team. Maybe you saw whip up against Texas A&M or Georgia a couple of times, but for whatever reason, those were good matchups, and the Gamecock men's basketball team just wasn't a good team last year. Now, this year's baseball team is I think the exception there, and is the team that can look like it's one of the best teams in the country. One game, and then the bats go silent. The next game, you don't make a couple plays on defense. All of a sudden, it's a 9-0 loss in the series opener against Mississippi State. That's kind of how I see the state of the big three, if you will, with baseball, men's basketball, and football compared to how Tim the Texter sees it. What about you, Kerry? I hear what you're saying there, and Gamecock fans know it. But my question then is, I know. It's not even my question. I know for some fans that only makes it that much more frustrating to then not see it, because I think unfairly they equate what Don Staley has been able to do and say, hey, why can't Frank Martin do that? Why can't
That's fair.
Why? But we all understand too, the resources dedicated to women's basketball across the country are not the resources that are dedicated to football or men's basketball.
You're right. And I go back to what was the I guess the moment they turned the corner as a women's basketball program, and I'm trying to find a way to connect the other sports, but Don Staley was able to get a few of the best basketball players here in South Carolina. Then you had a player like Asia Wilson that could have gone anywhere in the country. I thought, I share a lot of dialogue with people across the country regarding South Carolina basketball, and there seems to be a notion, and I get it, seems to be a notion that South Carolina is a really, really tough job. And I do think it's tough to a certain extent, but I also think it becomes tougher whenever you're not able to keep the in-state kids here. I think when you keep the best in-state kids, not just some of the in-state kids, but when you get the best in-state kids to come here and play, there's a proven track record. There's a direct correlation that when you look at the years that have been the most successful for this program, then all of those teams were anchored by guys from South Carolina. South Carolina is one of those programs, like a Georgia, like an Ole Miss, like an Alabama to a certain extent. Before this year, you have to rely on in-state kids simply because you don't have enough history, you don't have enough tradition to be able to go to other states, to neighboring states, and pry the best players away from those other states. Because if they're that valuable, 9 times out of 10, Tim Hill, they're probably going to go to those schools that are in their respective states. Some kind of way you got to be able to land those key recruits. But for me, more importantly, how do you sustain it? How do you sustain it? How do you sustain it? And that's a sign of a really, really good program. Stability, continuity, sustainability. That is a sign of a really, really good program. And the text messengers, I think you made a fair point.
Well, hearing Shane Beamer tout now the culture of the program and obviously have a different energy and outlook, and certainly his public comments much different than I think anybody's ever heard from a football perspective at the University of South Carolina. I think that might give some fans out there, that might give you a reason to think that things are going to change for that program moving forward. And Carey, I would kind of put it out there. I think we saw it to a large degree in the Steve Spurrier heyday there. 2010, you win an SEC East championship, and the 3 years after that, you finish in the top 10. I don't think it's just a mere coincidence that you saw a couple of national championships from the baseball team in 2010 and 11 and playing for a third one in 2012. You did see the basketball team, while not go to the NCAA tournament, you saw them knocked off number 1 Kentucky at home in 2010 during that stretch. And then the program kind of went a little sideways on Darren Horn and didn't continue success. But I think they can feed off each other to a certain degree. What Shane Beamer does, I think, will be out in front of everything. And the football program kind of does that. What Frank Martin can do coming off the worst year of his career and what kind of bounce back his program can have will also factor significantly into, I think, the mindset of Gamecock fans like Tim and others. We'll continue to discuss as we roll on this morning. The captain, Carey Rich, helping to fill in for Bill Gunter. 803-404-6100. If you would like to join the show, you can call or text. Also up and rolling on the video stream, sponsored by Beaufort Lending, YouTube, Facebook Live, on Twitter as well. The station handle at 1075 The Game. You're listening to The Early Game.
Want to be here, not just going out there to hire a guy that has a famous last name. It's not some retreads. We're a bunch of guys that
Guess I had to jump out of that pretty quick.
How many minutes will we have once we come back?
Not much. I'm guessing maybe 2.
Okay.
And you good to 8:15 again this morning?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So we'll carry it over into that next hour.
Okay.
I'm confused there, T-Ray. What are you agreeing with?
I agree. We never hear about a lot of other programs like
softball, volleyball, and soccer.
Not sure what you're agreeing with. Maybe just that the big three are not winning. You want to answer Waddy's question? Just the way it's been is how I understand it.
Carey, can you tell us why the state AAU coaches don't seem to like it? Man, I'm struggling to see this.
Why don't the AAU coaches in South Carolina seem to like Clemson and South Carolina, or funnel the best players there?
Well, it's not their jobs to fund the players anyway.
And to me, it's really simple, right? I don't think it's a matter of whether you like the programs. It's a matter of, is that the best situation for them?
Right. Now, the one thing that you don't want to happen is for AAU coaches to steer players away from the in-state school. And if that is happening, that's problematic. That's problematic. But I don't think it's their job to funnel players to any school. I think it's the job of the coaches to build a program that players want to be a part of.
Yeah, maybe that's another thing I'll get into you with, Carey.
Okay.
What Chavo's saying here about Beamer doing a great job from a culture perspective.
If they can coach on games, oh yeah.
Attaboy, Clemson Sean, throwing that in there.
Because they don't maximize.
One way to put it.
Hey, you got to blur that boundary, man. And quite frankly, unless you're winning at a high clip, it's hard to be successful if you don't blur that boundary. You don't necessarily have to cross it, but I'm just keeping it 100, man. Because your counterparts, 80 to 90% of them are doing it. Remember, we've caught guys on tape that still have jobs. Sean Miller and guy from Kansas. Bill Smith.
Don't forget about Will Wade. No, I think Sean Miller's finally out in Arizona.
That's what I meant to say, Will Wade.
Yeah.
Who, by the way, just had 2 really good signings.
Of course he did. Got good, strong offers.
Will is a good friend too, man. When I started reading that stuff about Will Wade, I was like, man, that's not the guy I knew when he was just a GA up at Clemson, man.
I give him credit for somehow hanging on to that job. That is something.
Sounds like he knows where some dead bodies are buried at by the athletic administration at LSU.
Not just that, NCAA, man.
Yeah.
How do you survive that?
And he's done it in like a gangster style.
No doubt. Yeah, we see everybody taking shots at the University of California on the text line too.
Oh yeah. Can he recover from that?
I don't know, but as someone who misspeaks frequently publicly, I'm not gonna lead that train. Jen, can we do the Jamie Foxx here real quick? Off straight in.
You're not going to have dirt on your jersey, but that's fine because I still love you.
if you have not seen the entirety of that Jamie Foxx video circulating on social media, I definitely recommend it. It's his impersonation of a college football coach, man. That dude is talented, huh, Carey?
He is talented, very talented.
When you can go from Ray Charles to college football coach and do it immediately, just throw in some In Living Color back in the day. Jamie Foxx could do it all, man. That's the latest example of that. I encourage you, if you'd like to put a smile on your face, and from some of these text messages I'm seeing, a lot of you need to put some smiles on your faces and stop taking things so seriously. We'll see if we can do a little bit more for you. Hour 3 coming up.
The home of the Gamecocks. WNKT-FM, Eastover, Columbia. 10.
Let's see the latest one that got me in a bad mood there at the end. The latest text was what? University of California one. Yeah.
And I think part of the problem is I don't think he's endeared himself to the university yet, for one thing. For another, it really, like, to me, you have a comeback with that, like something to be like,
right,
really, California. I mean, there's only one, and really, but he was just kind of like, yeah, whatever, And I think that's the part that really kind of nailed him, was like, he didn't even care, or didn't appear to care.
Right.
We first was selected to take the job. There was still some, everybody was not on board with him becoming the president. And here, even with the dollar more mishandling, it kind of got those other guys really, well, let's just say they woke up and they're not necessarily, it kind of reminded them of why they were against the hire in the first place. This right here only added to it, and there seems to be an assumption out there that this is just a pit stop for him. So the level of commitment and the seriousness that's needed for this job are probably missing, which is why he kind of have that laissez-faire attitude after messing up the way he did. Yeah, I don't think it should be overreaction, but let's just say there's not a lot of folks on the train supporting him right now.
Yeah, again, you should give people grace if they make a mistake.
Right.
But there's just an awful lot of other issues that just make this worse. And again, how he then handled it was just kind of like, eh.
Right. Even going back to how he handled the Will Muschamp when he went to Greenville, and he gave those folks that information and then tried to back. So there's some things in this recent track record that's not favorable, and this past weekend only added to it. And I'm being nice when I say there are not a lot of key folks on this train right now.
Yeah. Yep. Crazy.
Well, I always talk about the difference in personalities, mentalities from Spurrier, the ultimate gamer, to Muschamp, the ultimate grinder. Yeah. How jarring that was for the program to go from one to the other.
Yeah.
I can't imagine there being a much, especially in the world of high academia, much different personalities than Harris Bastides to Bob Caslin.
Truly.
And also, and I don't know if you guys knew it or not, Beamer wasn't his first choice.
Right.
He was ready to hire this guy with the military background, and it took for some heavy donors to let him know that if you do this, then you risk losing my donation. I'll make sure my friends follow suit.
Right.
It took for that to happen. Beamer wasn't the guy. Yep. He was going to hire a guy with the military background.
Yeah. But just a reminder, we're not on that level, so if we make mistakes, it's okay, because like our pay grades is way different.
Yeah,
So.
Well, and last I checked, they do not broadcast this live stream at Williams-Brice Stadium in front of tens of thousands of people.
Not yet. That may happen. We may get to that point, but
Yeah, you see what Travis says. So now, what about your take on the Frank situation as that is concerned, sir?
Well, he says it all. Just go back and think about how he never really came out and spoke glowingly or in support of Frank, even after the decision was made.
Yeah,
he's our coach. That was it. You know, I'm a big believer in the two-way street. Whether you're the employer or the employee, there needs to be a level of respect on both ends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was surprised that it ended up going down how it did. Basically, I think from the fan standpoint, it was about as fair as most people wanted to see, that it didn't end.
Right.
But I was very surprised just from a contract standpoint, they were able to figure out moving forward without much of a commitment.
Well, I think both parties were in a tough spot. I think
doubt.
if Frank wanted to remain here, Frank needed to give up a little. And if the athletic administration wanted to give him a real chance to be successful, knowing the business, they knew that they could not send him out there one more year with only 1 year left on his contract, because there was no way, talked about sustainability, there was no way he was going to be able to go out and sign a prospect with every coach in America using his contract situation, the 1 year remaining, against him. There was no way he could recover from that. Or, well, 1 year, so 2 years left prior to this year.
Right.
I think both sides understood that, and there needed to be some give and take on both sides.
And what they did was basically buy themselves a year.
It was more cosmetic than anything. But again, with both of them being in the situations that they were in, they needed to both kind of give a little and take a little.
All right, Jen, the question is Vern going to behave here? Vern going to be on his P's and Q's?
Jen actually walked out of the studio. She went to print something. She went to grab something off of the printer. She's entering the studio now.
Gotcha. I think we got a caller who's waiting to get into the coaches type conversation a little bit more. Jen, let's start with number one, please.
Seems like the logical way to start.
Thank you.
I was hoping I could get a little Bill Walton before I left.
It might be right here. No, not quite. It's a basketball one.
There's no point to it. Now, here's Tim Hill and Bill Gunter
There were definitely punches thrown. Yes.
on 107.5 The Game.
A one hit well in the air to left center field. A lot of carry to the wall, off the wall. Rounding second and heading for third is Heinrich. They will send him home. Here's the throw from Forsythe. It is offline, and the Gamecocks win it. An RBI double from Mendham in the 11th inning.
Derek Scott on the call there for the Gamecock Network, Learfield IMG College broadcast. You heard it right here on 107.5 The Game. Yesterday, 11th inning, Carolina coming back to get the 4-3 win, down 3-2 in the bottom of the ninth. Jeff Heinrich and David Mendham, the heroes there, a couple of guys who have not had their way. Mendham held out of the lineup on Saturday, bouncing right back. Heinrich kind of in and out of the lineup recently, has been banged up this season, hasn't really performed at third base like he's wanted to, certainly like Carolina baseball needs a third baseman to produce, but yesterday was avoiding disaster. The captain, Carey Rich, helping to fill in for Bill Gunter this morning. Bill will be filling in for Heath Klein from 4 to 7 this afternoon, and then back on the normal morning show schedule after that. So it was a losing streak, really unlike we've seen in the SEC for a long time. 6 straight losses for Carolina, going back to the end of the Arkansas series, getting swept at Ole Miss, Mississippi State taking the first 2 here in Columbia over the weekend, and the Gamecocks avoid complete disaster. Mark Kingston points out after the game, the RPI is still at 12. He expects to be in consideration, one of the 20 regional sites in consideration to host the NCAA regional when that news comes out a little later on this week. The Gamecocks also the midweek game against Clemson to finish out that series, a game that was postponed originally, and then at Kentucky, at Tennessee, against Tennessee at home to finish out the regular season. And it is winning time, I think, might be the basketball term for it, Carey. When you come down to critical moments, that's where Gamecock baseball is in its season. We saw them come through yesterday when they desperately needed it, and now they're going to need to stack some more wins on the end of their season if they have any hopes of hosting. And again, they still need to win some games, I think, just to make it to the NCAA tournament. And then it's all about, all right, well, how does this team get close to living up to expectations for where Mark Kingston and company need them to be?
As we call it, the stretch run. And for South Carolina to certainly improve their position, winning some games down the stretch becomes paramount. And the last 3 weeks they've had to go up against some really tough teams: Arkansas, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, who are not only 3 of the best teams in the SEC, but 3 of the best teams in college baseball. Going 2-7, certainly didn't win the series last night, but just getting out of the series with a win and hoping to carry some momentum into the next series. Obviously have a pit stop against Clemson, who, by the way, normally Mahoney would be on the mound for South Carolina. That's not going to be the case for midweek tomorrow night, that is. We talked about that accountability session, Tim Hill, when Kingston chose not to remain on the field and have that conversation in the locker room. And I can just tell you, as a former player, man, those are the most uncomfortable conversations. They're raw, they're real. You can't hide from them. They're tough, and it's nothing politically correct. No diplomacy, nothing diplomatic about those conversations. And even though they didn't win the subsequent game, you did see some fight, and hopefully that fight is able to carry on into the next series. Certainly something that they need to have as they try to close out this season on the stretch run to improve their position going into the NCAA tournament.
And how streaky this team has been, or how hot and cold they can be. We saw the cold part here recently. We saw it earlier in the year after an 11-game win streak to start, 6 straight losses after that. That's why I didn't stop you midpoint there and say, well, we overstate that all the time. And this team has been that this year. And Mark Kingston saying yesterday's win, probably the most important of the season, and equating it to that comeback win that Carolina had earlier this year in the series finale at Vanderbilt that led to winning 8 of the next 9, and really led, I think, a lot of us to believe that this program was a lot closer to what it used to be in the Ray Tanner heyday than what it has been in the last several years after that, the Chad Holbrook era and the first few years of the Mark Kingston era. What happens down the stretch here in the regular season and then in the postseason will go a long way to defining where this baseball program is right now. And where it is, as we sit here today, Carey, we had texter Tim in the last hour point out that he thinks, man, baseball and football and men's basketball are all, he throws them all in the same boat as inconsistent programs right now. To me, my point was, I think the football program, unfortunately, has been pretty consistent and just not good recently, having lost 16 games in the last couple of years. To me, the basketball program has been much more consistent, just not consistently really good. And then this last year, I think, was the anomaly where it was, unfortunately, consistently uncompetitive a lot of the times down the stretch. And the baseball program has seen kind of stretches of both with being one game away from the College World Series in year number 1 under Mark Kingston, then going just 500 in year number 2. You got the incomplete year number 3 last year with COVID cutting the season short after 12-4 through 16 games. Now this year we've seen kind of the ups and downs. Into the top 10 and playing really well, then this latest struggle that Carolina avoided disaster, and now you got 6 conference games left, sitting at 12-12 in SEC play. The stretch run will define, I think, this 2021 college baseball team. And for a lot of Gamecock fans that might feel like Tim and kind of lump all the big 3 together, it might define how kind of they feel about Gamecock athletics. Travis asked an interesting question. Sorry, this is RL on the YouTube live stream. Travis put out the point earlier, I think, about how streaky the baseball team has been. It kind of reminded him of a streaky shooting basketball team. RL says, are fans really too critical of men's basketball, baseball, football? Ray Tanner, University President Bob Caslin. I may not like the volume of criticism, RL concludes, but I do understand the frustration. My answer would be no, very, very simply. Are they too critical? I don't think so, because we all understand the investment for a lot of fans and the high level of expectation that, I mean, Ray Tanner understood in a big-time way and never shied away from running the baseball program and expects his programs to compete for championships. Carey, do you agree with what I'm saying here, or how would you answer RL's questions? Are fans too critical of those big 3 programs, men's basketball, baseball, and football right now?
Well, at this level, with every sport, there will be criticism. I think it only becomes too critical when that criticism lacks rationale or reasoning, because there will always be variables in the equation. And how do you configure those variables in the equation to, assess a certain degree of criticism? Coaches understand that criticism comes along with it. It's only when that criticism is filled with vitriol and it becomes personal. But this is what you sign up for, and you get paid the big contracts, and you make the money that you make based on the expectations that are in place. So they get it. They understand it. I've often heard many of them say, this is a big boy league. This is a big girl league. We understand it. So are they too critical at times? I think every fan base will have a segment of fans that will take it to the next level. And in the day of social media, it only exaggerates the volume. And now that volume becomes unbearable to a certain extent. So how do you manage that? Not only as coaches and administrators, but players. There was a time, Tim Hill, when I played, once the game was over, the game was over. And we didn't hear about the game until we saw it on the late night news, or the next day we read it in the newspaper, or you saw it on the news again. Well, now that's no longer the case. As soon as the game is over with, not only are fans tweeting about the game, but they're so bold, they're tweeting at players about the game. So how do you detach from that? Especially, those that are too critical. I think it sometimes crossed the line, but it's where we are. It's today's society in terms of social media and criticism. And again, no player or no coach is running or shying away from criticism. Comes along with the territory. But do I think it becomes too critical at times? Yes. When it becomes personal, when it's filled with vitriol, that's when I think it crosses the line.
The Captain, Carey Rich. Appreciate the insights this morning, as always. And I will leave you with the line from Jake Bentley. Right? He was asked how he handles all that. He's like, I just turn my phone off. Not that hard. Just turn it off.
Well, turning my phone off is hard. Turning my phone off is like committing social suicide.
You're too important.
Yeah, so that's not an option for me.
I love turning the phone off. It's great. Do feel a little bit like I'm swimming in uncharted territories for sure. But I encourage everyone. Just put the word out there. Hey, I'm going to turn my phone off for a certain amount of time and then see where life takes you from there.
It's scary. It is really scary. And I think I get irritated, and I don't know if it's just being like the mom or whatever, but I get so irritated because literally my husband be at work at all day, like be gone 12 hours and hasn't heard from the kids. I've heard from them 15 times. He's reached out, and it's like I feel like the world will blow up if I don't have my phone on because
Exactly.
he won't be accessible, and then
Social suicide is what we call it.
yeah. Yeah.
For those of us who don't have a social life, not a big issue. Captain, good to hear from you, man. At the captain _03, where you can follow Carey on Twitter. He'll be back in his normal spots with Heath in the afternoon, Tuesday, Thursday, for the rest of the week and moving forward. Thanks for helping us out here on the early game the last few days.
It's been a lot of fun, and please don't wait so long again to invite me back in. I can't wait.
We can kick Bill out anytime.
I don't think Bill would like that.
Especially after he
I'm
got
really
the
worried about
NASCAR
that.
pick correct in Darlington over the weekend. That's a different deal. Maybe we'll discuss that as we roll on. Maybe we will completely avoid that. Who knows what'll happen. Do need to talk about the environment that will be Carolina and Clemson baseball when they play again, because it's an unfamiliar territory right now. I'll get on a gas baggy hot take soapbox when I come back here. It's the early game. It's 107.5 The Game.
Hey, we've got a way to.
Thanks, man. Go work for real now.
Thank you. That was real work. Now I'm going to play.
Attaboy.
Thank you, guys, man. That was a lot of fun.
All right, Carey. Appreciate it, man.
Talk to you guys later.
Sounds good. All right, so now you guys are stuck with me here. Yes, agree, Travis. Thank you, RL, I think. Yes. There. Nice work. Hope. Appreciate you updating us on the rankings, by the way. Yeah, agreed. We could definitely get Carey and Bill to go back and forth there. Might do that. Might set that up for a summer show. Who you got in there? Oh, you're telling Carey on his way out. That's who you're talking to, huh? Don't get to see you actually talking to people very often. Off camera there. Jen, we still doing just the 2 breaks? Is that right? This hour?
Yes, sir. Yeah. So I wanted Bills to play here, and then your 8:40 Buford.
Got that.
No, and when I came in, something changed with the Google settings or something. So all of my bookmarks, I couldn't find them.
Mm-hmm.
So like for the skimmer and for the
That's a pain.
for traffic.
Great start to the week, huh?
Can only get better, right? Okay, I gotta turn that down.
That to get to. Yeah, we'll try to get that going for basketball games coming up, Travis, ideally. Or maybe hop on like at halftime or after the game or something. We'll see how it goes. That's the fun part of the old bar.
Need to have maybe like the Darlington race or something. I would get none of you on. It would just be me.
What is Jim saying no to? Right. So no, not being too critical. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Got you. Well, I think the question becomes, Jim, when you invest in that, what are you? If you feel like you're investing simply in results, I think you're misguided because there are 14 programs in the SEC. I would say 13 of them have pretty similar investments, and the math doesn't work out, man. So I think when it becomes too critical is when you don't appreciate the experience and you don't acknowledge that your investment is paying off from an experience standpoint, upgraded facilities and the whole thing. But I get it, man. I mean, that's why I said no. I agree with you. No, I don't think they're too critical because the results haven't been there. Attaboy RL. Good news there. 750, the YouTube number. Patrick will get his 1,000 soon enough. We're right there.
Temperatures old. Sorry.
And yes, Travis, yes.
But the conversation that Reggie Anderson and I had yesterday was pretty funny as far as our take on Bill's relationship with Denny Hamlin, and it was a little off color, and yeah. Neither of us are very happy that Bill won.
You guys are as legit NASCAR followers as I've ever met. And my uncle was the president and founder of the Terry Labonte fan club. Yeah, that is brutal. To me, Bill is to NASCAR what the person in the office who never watches basketball is to the winner of the NCAA tournament brackets.
That's a great analogy.
He is that guy or girl.
But sadly, this goes on for many, many, many weeks, and
right, and now years.
Yeah, Carey.
No, Waddy. That would have to be quite the payday, I would imagine, for Carey to have thrown the race in Martin Truex Jr.'s way.
And we all, like, it's pretty much a pact with Carey, Reggie, and me that we want Bill to lose. So we're cheering for everybody. Exactly. It's his betting savvy that's coming in. All right, I'm back in.
Can we do? Let's do 1, 5, and 2 again in that order. But I'll start with the liner first.
All right. All right, you're up.
35 minutes from now, chance number 2 of 10 today to win $100 to qualify to win $25,000. It's our 25K workday payday here on 107.5 The Game. Every hour we reveal a secret keyword, ask you to text it in to 95819. That can qualify you to win $100 plus every winner entered in the drawing for the grand prize jackpot of $25,000. 25K workday payday here. You got 3 more days. Monday, Tuesday, and this Wednesday when the 25K workday payday comes to a conclusion. The series conclusion yesterday, pretty dramatic for Gamecock baseball. Here's how it sounded on 107.5 The Game.
Double from David Mendham in the 11th inning.
It was awesome. I mean, it's a big team win. You need to get the momentum going. It was kind of funny. Right before that Jeff's at bat, I was like, come on, me and you, let's get it started. It kind of went right as planned. It was kind of weird, actually, but it was cool.
You got to have grit. That's why you got to got to have good attitudes and team attitudes when your number is going to be called, and probably the biggest game of the year for us to win right there.
That's Carolina coach Mark Kingston with the last comment. It was the hero, David Mendham, hit a 2-run homer earlier in the ball game to give Carolina the early lead against Mississippi State, and coming through in the 11th inning, both he and Jeff Heinrich really playing the major roles at the plate for the Gamecocks yesterday, and kind of what you heard from Mark Kingston alluding to there, coming through and staying ready. Mendham out of the lineup on Saturday. Heinrich inserted late in the ball game yesterday and battling through an injury and hasn't produced quite like he had wanted to at third base, but coming through to tie the game with an RBI in the 9th and then scored that winning run. And Derek Scott on the call there on the Learfield IMG College broadcast that you heard right here on 107.5 The Game, that now sets Carolina up to still be in the conversation. To me, it's on the outside looking in right now, especially knowing the challenge the NCAA will have this year in spreading NCAA tournament regionals around to 16 sites. They're going to announce 20 finalists, basically, later on this week of candidates to be those 16 sites, and they're doing that this year because of COVID protocols and making sure a bunch of things are in place to safely host these sites, which I think we're all thankful, first of all, that we get this year. We didn't get it last year. We've come a long way from that standpoint. Watching the Atlanta Braves here over the weekend, what a wild weekend. That Saturday game. If you missed that Saturday Braves game, come back with Panda Pablo Sandoval hitting a pinch hit home run to tie it up, and that thing ended up going extra innings and then some, and it was back and forth in extra innings, both teams scoring. And if you're a baseball purist and you don't like putting a runner on second base, I get it. It is weird. It is kind of un-American, right? All right, we're just going to make a rule and give it to you. I'll give you that guy at second base. Get on out there. All right, let's try to wrap this thing up. This game that we don't time and we enjoy because it is timeless. Let's get this thing going. Let's send a guy out. But what you do get is some post-game dramatics, and I think I got to change with the times there and get on board, because Saturday night's game was tremendous, and then yesterday the Braves continue it. It's now 5 out of 6. For Atlanta, some crazy plays in that game, as ESPN is airing a previous interview, previous public comments from Freddie Freeman, the reigning MVP, about how special Mother's Day is and how he's going to try to hit a home run for his wife. Boom, home run as it's going. Then that ridiculous play from Tyler Matzik, left-handed pitcher, reaching back over his head blindly with his glove hand, the right hand, and makes the snag. Not only makes the snag, but then sets up perfectly to throw the seed to second base to start the 1-6-3. If you haven't seen that play, please go seek it out. Go check. That's one of those things that radio can't do it justice. We would replay the call of it, but it would just make you mad if you haven't seen it. You ever have those calls where you hear it on radio and like, oh, thanks a lot. Now I just heard that. I can't even see it. They didn't describe it. And then you can't blame the TV guys for not describing it, right? You're just kind of there watching it, and you're kind of hanging out with them. As the great Vin Scully described it, when you're the TV play-by-play guy, you're just kind of like the tour guide at the art museum. You're just pointing things out. They're watching it. So the TV call of that was, whoa, what a play. And then A-Rod comes on and was like, that was Gold Glove caliber. Oh, well, that's not helping me out on radio. But fantastic play there. But I say all of that to set up where we are for Carolina and Clemson baseball coming up tomorrow night at Clemson. And if you're a Gamecock fan, you probably didn't follow it. Maybe you did just because that's kind of what Gamecock fans do a lot of times, keeping an eye on Clemson. And it looked like they had kind of resurrected their season last weekend, sweeping at Louisville. It was ranked number 4 at the time, I think. And then this weekend, they played Georgia Tech. And unfortunately for Clemson, that one in Atlanta. So the Louisville one was in Clemson, by the way. Let me go ahead and get my facts straight. It wasn't at Louisville. This past series was at Georgia Tech, which is not much of a trip at all from Clemson. and Georgia Tech. You talk about a baseball program that is not at the level that their fan base would like or once was. Georgia Tech has been that program for the last, I don't know, maybe since the last time I was down there. I was down there during the Steve Pierce days for Carolina. This was in between the Omaha runs, right? In between 04 and 2010. I believe it might have been 2000 and I forget. I think it might have been 2008 or 9 the last time Carolina was down there and Pierce was dominating the regional, but Carolina just didn't have enough. I think that was still Matt Wieters was there. I might be getting that confused with the time they were there before in 02 or 03 or 4 on their way out to Omaha. But my point with the Georgia Tech program is that it was a national championship winning program, and you just had big leaguers rolling through there back in the late 90s, early 2000s, and then it just kind of went away to a large degree of that success, and it kind of went down to the next level where it's been a successful program, and their coach Danny Hall's won 1 million games. He just hit another landmark, I think, recently. But it hasn't been top 10 consistent like it was before. And that's where both Carolina and Clemson find themselves going into tomorrow night's game. And Clemson got swept in Atlanta this weekend. Lost 6-1, 6-5, 9-8. Brutal, those last 2 games, right? 1-run games this year, killing Clemson by and large. And Monty Lee, the former Gamecock assistant, former Ray Tanner assistant, ton of success at College of Charleston, seemed to be the guy to take over for Hall of Famer Jack Leggett. And that thing is not working out how Clemson fans want it to. Right now, overall, the Tigers a game above 500. They're 500 in conference play, just like the Gamecocks are. But flirting with 500 overall, not near what Carolina is. And thank you to Hope for updating us on the latest D1 baseball.com poll where the Gamecocks dropped 6 spots, I believe it is, to number 25. But Clemson in danger of finishing with a less than 500 season for the first time 50 years, 1959 or something like that. So to see this baseball series, this baseball rivalry, which was absolutely the best in all of college baseball for years, and I would argue the last couple of decades, since that 2002 year where it got taken to the next level in the College World Series, where the Gamecocks took 2 straight in that Final Four matchup to get to the national championship game against Texas. Then you saw it happen again in 2010, where Michael Roth and the famous Baylor Teal performance, and where Jack Leggett continued to get Clemson, even though he couldn't get him over the hump in a national championship. But again, Hall of Fame guy. I think Clemson fans understanding his true value now more years removed from that era and seeing the relative struggles of Monty Lee. Not that they haven't been pretty good, but they haven't had any kind of NCAA success. And that's how Clemson baseball, South Carolina baseball are measured. Best programs in the country, you get measured with how much postseason success you have. And it's kind of sad for me to have seen this baseball rivalry where it is right now. Now, the 2 games this year were fantastic, don't get me wrong. Andrew Eister with the walk-off winners in back-to-back games. Unfortunately, the first game was postponed, so now that's why we get this weird kind of standalone game where it's going to be really difficult for these coaching staffs. Mark Kingston was asked about it yesterday. Who's going to pitch? And he's like, everybody's going to pitch. You got to have everybody available for the weekend. So this was what's so great about how Carolina and Clemson have done the rivalry series, that they've made it a true series in the last, I don't know, it's been a long time. I remember back when I went to school, they would play 4 games per year, but they would all be midweek. They would be like back-to-back games twice, I think is how they would do it in midweek games. And I mean, they were still intense and the whole thing. You get great crowds, and it would be a different kind of atmosphere than most college baseball games, but it was still weird that you weren't getting necessarily the best pitchers lined up and you weren't doing it as a series. So that has been much improved. And now, unfortunately, for this one game, we're kind of back to, all right, you want to win the game. You want bragging rights in the rivalry. It's still important. And for a postseason perspective, obviously it will help the resume for either team that wins this thing. But it's still weird that you can't throw your best guys out there because you don't want to burn them for the weekend. That is that much more important in conference play. So this series has meant so much to so many people for a long, long time. It's just going to be a weird setting, I feel like, up at Clemson come tomorrow night. But it is a great opportunity for the Gamecock baseball team to continue to build on some positive momentum to keep Clemson down after a tough weekend, getting swept at Georgia Tech. And what Carey was talking about a little bit earlier about confidence being so key to athletes was a good reminder for me because I never got to that level, right? Most of us didn't. I mistakenly put SEC level athletes in a different category than the rest of us mere mortals because they were able to achieve so much just to get there. I have so much respect for anybody who is putting on a uniform, having earned a scholarship, however you want to put it, competes at the SEC level. Man, that's athletically, so few people are able to get there. It's hard for me to imagine then that those people that have gotten there have accomplished so much to get there also go through the, hey man, maybe I'm just not good enough conversation in their head, or I just don't have it today, or I'm just this or that, the doubts. It's hard for me to understand that, especially for a Gamecock baseball player, Jeff.
What I was going to say, and just listening to a couple conversations, this last weekend after Kyle Busch won his race, and I mean, this is obviously a different scale, but even he said doubts start to creep in. Think about how many victories he's had and championships and everything. And he was saying he has not been winning. Last year was not a good season for him. This season has not been great. And he said they needed that win because you start to doubt yourself. So if that can happen on that level, it absolutely, to me, could happen on a collegiate level.
Well, it's just human nature, right?
Yeah.
And that's where we get it wrong a lot of times on sports talk radio and as fans and the whole thing. We talk about athletes or our teams and just put them in a different category because for us, it's just there's a distraction. It's fun. It is how we kind of channel other stuff a lot of times. And it's easy to forget when if you don't have one-on-one interaction or you don't see these people in real life outside of a competitive setting, that it's not just a play. It's not just some movie. These are real people going through real emotions and the whole thing. And I think it's especially easy to do that when you see the same sustained success repeated time after time after time, like the Clemson football program right now, like what Gamecock baseball certainly was, like what Clemson baseball was for years and years and years. And it's easy for us on the outside to forget about all the hard work and decisions that are made and the execution that has to happen time and time and time again by so many different people that you just kind of take it for granted. And I think that's what I've done with the Carolina Clemson baseball rivalry in my head, because it just was the best rivalry in college baseball, hands down. Numbers don't lie, and the passion that goes into it from our state certainly don't lie. But that's not what it is this year. I don't think that's not where we are right now, especially having seen the Mississippi State Ole Miss rivalry this year, having seen those teams the last several years. I think they have surpassed it, knowing the importance of college baseball in that state, very similar to ours. I think you got to put that one above if you're anywhere close to objective. And I understand that's not what we do a lot of times either. I would love to see South Carolina and Clemson baseball get back there, but it's going to take more winning. It's not going to take anything different from the fans, I don't think, by and large. We still really care about it. We're going to pay a lot of attention to it. We're going to talk a lot about it. But I think it's easier for both the Carolina and Clemson fan bases to not pay attention to this game coming up tomorrow night than it's been in a long, long time. That kind of stinks. But I think that's where we are. That's my gas baggy hot take today. Bill will be back to keep me in line tomorrow. And unfortunately, he'll be back with bragging rights, Jen, about Martin Truex Jr. in Darlington yesterday. How did that happen? How did you allow that to happen, I guess is my question.
I just don't even know where to begin. You know, the crew chief for Truex finally puts together a package for that car that, you know, makes it solid. And I mean, Truex has been having a good season. I think we tend to count him out a little bit. But it just was brutal to see him and just to see him be so dominant. And I think he's a good driver. I think he's a good guy. But every time they said, I think he tapped the wall again. I think he tapped the wall again. I said, please tap the wall. Just, you know. But again, this goes back to the whole thing that's his life. And he's trying to, like, you know, make money out there and whatever. So I don't wish ill, but doggone.
Damon, great point. Wasn't that technically Patrick's pick, he says on the Twitter live stream? Patrick did make the pick for him on Friday's show, or on Thursday's show, excuse me.
So Bill did not
when Bill
tell
was
him
out.
to...
No, I think I'm afraid that he did put it in a text message, and there could probably be evidence in a court of law that can prove that Bill made the pick. But I'm going to still go with that, Damon. Unfortunately, Bill and Patrick will get to tell their side of things later on the day, and a lot of
Those
times
girls will put their heads together and you know, start.
A lot of times reality doesn't necessarily have to do with their version of the story. But we'll get the story straight for you tomorrow when those guys are back and we're back in our normal routine. Appreciate you joining the show and hope you're off to a good start this week. That's what we're trying to help you do. According to some of your text messages, I think it maybe getting out some weekend stuff might have been our role for you on the show this morning, and that's okay too. It happens sometimes. Several of you commenting right now. Bill M. I got tired of Just Good Enough and gave up 2 years ago. Just tired after so many years of going. Talking about where all three major programs was. And that was from Jim earlier, who said he ended up agreeing with my opinion about the fan base not being too critical and the investment and how much is owed and the whole thing. He says, as a dedicated and loyal as the Gamecock Nation needs to be the same from the administration and the coaching staff. That's why I'm on the Beamer steamer, Jim says. The first coach in football that I think truly is glad to be the head coach and may be able to change the culture of just being good enough. I'll give you my take on that when we come back. 803-404-6100. If you would like to get in a final word, you can call or text that number. You're listening to the early game here. It's 107.5 The Game.
The home of the Gamecocks and new head football coach, Shane Beamer, 107.5 The Game.
Today is an absolute dream come true. Not just to be a head football coach in the Southeastern Conference, but to be the head coach at the University of South Carolina.
Welcome, Coach.
All the timing of things right now, very interesting from the Gamecock fan perspective. Also very interesting if you need to get a loan these days. If you're looking to refinance your house, maybe you're looking to buy another one. My house, we're expanding the family, is getting larger, so the current home is getting smaller. That's why I have personally looked into it, and I recommend that you look into it as well with Beaufort Lending. Benji Getzi and his crew, more than 25 years of experience, so they know what they're doing down there. They also are confident. We've been talking a lot about confidence this morning. Benji is confident that if you give him a call at 843-524-2404, first of all, their policy there at Beaufort Lending is they're going to get back to you within 24 hours. Secondly, they are confident they can find you the best deal right now, the best numbers. Benji ran the numbers for me recently. I was blown away at what he was able to work out in my situation. It's a great time right now when you're looking at the market to refinance or get into a new mortgage, and Benji proved that to me on a personal level and showing me the numbers he was able to work out for me. Let him do the same for you. All he asks is that you give him a call, put him in the mix of candidates you're looking into when you're looking into your next loan or refinance. 843-524-2404. That's Buford Lending and Benji Getzi. 843-524-2404.
From the Shepherd's Glass Traffic Center, Shepherd's Glass, a true reflection.
No doubt, Anthony. No doubt. Yeah, what are you saying yes to then, Java? I got no problem getting on the nose, but you better bring something back. Are you on the Shane thing then? If you're not on the Beamer Steamer, I don't know why.
Yeah,
it's got to be by rail these days.
what else rhymes?
Jen, what are you going for? Beamer Steamer or Shane Train?
Yeah, it's got to be Shane Train. Beamer Steamer just.
Well, the tough part about the Shane Train is that you got the lane train.
There's just something about Steamer that's just not good.
I think Chavo's with you there. And can't go Beamer ball.
What is it, Beamer ball?
Yeah, that was what they called Virginia Tech.
Code. Stab.
Yeah, but it's too close to the lane train. You guys don't think it's too close? You got no problem with Kiffin already having that? I'm not disagreeing with you guys about the Steamer, by the way. I'm just saying.
What's his middle name?
Good question. So there is the mic'd up that came out. I'll mention that, I guess, when we came back.
Oh, that was good.
When we come back on the air. I'm interested to hear what stood out to you, Jen, because there's one part of that stood out to me for sure.
Gosh, I don't know.
See, don't be that guy. I don't care what it is, but got to be something different. But I guess you're saying you'll go with the Shane Train, Chavo. Okay. Don't care that you're stealing it from Lane, I think is what you're saying. If it was anybody but Kiffin, I might agree with you. But, man, that's the last dude you want to be stealing stuff from. That guy's track record. Maybe it will happen a little bit more organically in the coming year or years.
Yeah, there may be something that comes up.
Oh, my question is to you. And no, that didn't work out there. That's all part of the mystique of Lane Kiffin there, Chava. Hope, my question to you is the afternoon live stream. How is that going with Bill and Patrick? Hope that's going well. And what is this? Beamers memers? Hey, Mark, we'll keep workshopping then. What did I was listening to Bill the other day, and he was All talking about that Georgia name, image, likeness thing. That thing still is mind-boggling to me. And then I saw something too over the weekend. I guess Emmert has finally, NCAA president, recommended that they do something about this. Genius. Gotcha. Oh, thank you, Travis. Might just be a timing thing or certainly a routine thing. But are they having fun with it? I guess it kind of goes hand in hand with how many people are getting into it. For me, anyway. You guys see DK Metcalf as well running, sprinting this weekend, finishing last. Shows you how many ridiculously fast people there are in the world. And why you should, no pun intended, stay in your lane.
Yeah. All right, head back in.
Okay, Jen, let's do Kingston on the hosting thing again.
Okay.
Thank you.
Promo first or straight in?
Straight on.
Alrighty.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, that's so ridiculously fast still, Mark.
Today was a big day. I didn't shy away from it with our guys before the game. Say anything else, this is a big game for you. You want to be in consideration to host still. It's a game you need to win. And they got checked after today's game. Our RPI is 12. So if they're naming 20 sites that they think that deserve to be considered a host, I would think 12 RPI gives you a shot.
Definitely gives you a shot. That's Mark Kingston after yesterday's walk-off win. We've been talking a lot about today. 4-3, the final score. The Gamecocks avoid complete disaster and end a 6-game SEC losing streak. And now the question is, can you get it going the other way? Because if the NCAA was going to do like they originally announced and announce 16 regional sites this week, they wouldn't be one of them. At 12 RPI, I get it. So it's a solid number. 12 is less than 16 by my math. But with the way that the Gamecocks have been trending recently and knowing how many other SEC schools and programs are out there that deserve to host above Carolina, the Gamecocks sit 7th in the SEC right now. You just wouldn't get one. It's just what it is, I think, having gone on that 6-game losing streak. Being 500 in conference play right now. But salvaging that 500 record and not getting swept at home has kept Carolina's chances, I think, alive. But just like we heard from Mark Kingston, a rare public comment from a coach that seems to be directly honest and what he told his team, I think also, if you're being directly honest, I don't know if you tell your team this moving forward with their 1-0 mindset, right? Their bracelet would be 1-0 today. Well, you need to win the Clemson game tomorrow night, 6:00 at Doug Kingsmore. It's a midweek game, so you could minimize the impact of that loss if you had to, but you can't minimize the last 2 series in SEC play. You got to win them. You go on the road to Kentucky, ain't going to be easy. They're just 1 game behind in the standings right now, and they need wins like crazy just to make the NCAA tournament. And playing at Kentucky for whatever reasons it hadn't been great for Carolina historically. And then you turn around and you're hosting one of the SEC leaders right now in Tennessee, tied with Arkansas for the best overall record in SEC play. That's the final SEC regular season. I think you win those last 2 series, you do deserve the host. If you don't, you don't. I think it's that simple for South Carolina baseball right now. And if you don't host an NCAA regional, man, that road to the College World Series gets tough real quick. Not impossible, but definitely tougher. Hey, I hear the music. That means, unlike Bill Gunter, I can recognize the show is almost over. Sorry, Bill. You didn't deserve that shot when you're not here. Yeah, Jen loves it.
We'll wait till tomorrow and say it again.
Appreciate all the participation, especially for those of you joining us on the live video stream on Facebook and YouTube Live, on the Twitter handle as well, on the station handle 1075 The Game. Thanks for hitting us up on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line and the Love Chevy phone lines. 803-404-6100 is that number for all the shows where we're back local at noon. Dan Patrick Show coming up next here on 1075 The Game. We'll have Bill and Patrick back in the morning mix. Jen, I know you're going to have to mentally prepare yourself starting tomorrow. Bill will be filling in for Heath this afternoon from 4 to 7.
This is Gamecock Athletics Director Ray Tanner, and you're listening to 1075 The Game, WNKT FM, Eastover, Columbia.
For the ones standing guard. For
With
the eagle-eyed.
silliness that we had this morning, to
For the
start,
knights
it
in
was
shining
kind of
armor.
left that there.
And for all those who support them. We are Granger, your experienced safety partner, offering supplies and solutions for every industry, committed to helping keep your facilities safe
Can only hear
and
the
your
signal.
people safer. Call, click Granger.com/safety, or just stop by. Granger, for the ones who get it done.
Clay's Cleaning Service has a